After I defended best friend's family, Mom called me obsessive and sent me to therapy. But the courtroom truth destroyed their favorite victim. I was 12 years old when Leo enrolled in my class. He was tall, athletic, and should have been popular. Instead, the entire class turned ghostly white as soon as he walked in. The teacher herself turned pale. I was definitely the only one who was not in the loop. I sat next to him at lunch, and everyone, even Leo, gave me a strange look. "You actually want to be my friend?" he inquired, shocked. We spent the entire day having fun. I didn't have any friends at the time, so I hurried home eager to tell my mother about the new one I'd made. But when I informed her his name, her face became white. "Stay away from that kid. Him and his dad are monsters. They hit and hospitalized their mom." I was shocked. Mom drove me to school the next morning rather than allowing me to walk. She walked up to my teacher and muttered something that made Mrs. Squelch nod grimly. When I attempted to sit close to Leo in class, Mrs. Squelch relocated my seat. When I looked across the classroom, I noticed Leo almost crying. During recess, he stood alone by the fence while the others played. And after school, I realized why. When Leo's father arrived, the pickup area cleared up completely. Parents grabbed their children and hurried to their cars. One mother actually told her kid, "Don't look at him, sweetie." Leo's father simply sat there with his head down as Leo climbed in. Everyone treated him as if they were terrible, but it didn't stack up. Leo's father would pack extra granola bars for youngsters who forgot their lunch money, and Leo volunteered to stay after school to assist special needs students. There was no chance this was the family that had attacked their mother. Then came the day when I discovered who Leo and his father truly were. I was heading home, calculating the $50 my grandmother had given me for my birthday, when 3 eighth graders approached me. "Look at the rich boy," the biggest one said, pushing me to the ground. They took my money, and one of them kicked me in the ribcage. I cuddled up, hoping for more, when they all bolted away. Leo's father stood there, not touching anyone, just standing. "Are you okay, kid?" he said before helping me up. He walked me home without saying much more. When I informed Mom what had happened, she really lost it. "He approached you? What if he'd taken you somewhere?" She was screaming. She contacted the school immediately. "A known abuser confronted my son," she repeated. By the next day, the entire school had learned. The principal issued an email prohibiting Leo's father from visiting school grounds. Parents published it on Facebook, labeling him a predator who stalked students at school. Leo appeared ruined. He sat with his head on his desk for the majority of the day. When I tried to sneak him a message thanking his father for assisting me, he pushed it back. "Please don't," he whispered. "You're making things worse for him." 2 weeks later, I noticed Leo crying in the library. He tried to conceal it, but his shoulders shook. I sat down nonetheless. "They spray-painted Predator on his car," stated Leo. "He lost his job because of it. We might lose our apartment." He wiped his eyes harshly. "Everyone hates him. But they don't know anything." "What do you mean?" I inquired. Leo looked around to ensure that we were alone. He then dropped the bomb. It turns out he and his father never hit their mother. Actually, it was the other way around. Their mother struck them. She'd toss bottles, break cookware and plates, and use lighters. Leo still has a burn mark on his back from it. "Then why was your dad blamed?" I inquired. He simply burst into tears at that point. He said that, in addition to striking them, his mother constantly threatened his father, claiming that if he ever left and took Leo, she would tell everyone Dad was the abuser. My face turned pale. "And that's what she did," Leo added, sobbing. "When Dad took me and we finally left, she took him to court and lied about everything." "Then why does everyone say you're guilty?" "'Cause you're all idiots who can't do a Google search." He then took out his phone and showed me something that changed all I had ever known about them. He handed me screenshots from police reports, court documents, and medical records. There were images showing injuries on his father's arms, a medical report from when his mother hurled a glass bottle at his head, and several restraining order applications that his father had filed but then withdrawn. The dates went back years. Leo went through the photos, each one making my stomach turn more. I grabbed his phone and began snapping photos with mine. Leo tried to stop me, but I simply shook my head. "People need to see this." "No." Leo snatched back his phone. "You don't get it. She'll make it worse. She always does." The bell rang, and we had to get to class. I could not focus on anything. Every time I looked at Leo, crouched over his desk, I remembered those images, his father sitting in his car with spray paint, calling him a predator, and how everyone, including my own mother, bought the lie. Mom waited in the pickup line after school. She hardly let me in before beginning. "I heard you were talking to that Leo kid in the library. What did I tell you?" "Mom, you don't understand. No discussion. You're staying away from him." She tightened her hold on the steering wheel. "His father is dangerous. The whole community knows it. But what if they're wrong?" I took out my phone. "What if I could show you?" Mom slammed on the brakes at a red light and turned to face me. "Whatever sob story they fed you, I don't want to hear it. Abusers always claim to be victims. Always." At home, I went straight to my room and began investigating. I found the court case online. According to public documents, Leo's mother initially received complete custody, but when he turned 12, he decided to live with his father. That's when she submitted the abuse allegations. The timing appeared strange. I made a spreadsheet on my computer that organized everything. The photographs from Leo's phone, the court history, and the fact that Leo's father had never been convicted of anything, only charged. I was engaged in research when Mom approached at my doorway. "What are you doing?" I minimized the window. "Homework." She walked over to reopen it. In a matter of seconds, her expression changed from perplexed to outraged. "You took pictures of their fake evidence? Are you insane? It's not fake. Look at the dates. Look at the... Delete it. Now." When I hesitated, she took my phone. "I'm keeping this until you learn to make better choices. And you're grounded. No computer except for homework, and I'll be checking." The following few days were torturous. At school, I tried to smuggle notes to Leo, but the teachers kept separating us. When I walked by, the kids started murmuring. "That's the kid who hangs out with the abuser's son," someone mentioned. I began using the library computers around lunchtime. Mrs. Chen, the librarian, paid little attention as long as you remained quiet. I dug deeper into the public records. Vanessa, Leo's mother, had a background that included 2 previous restraining orders from ex-boyfriends and an arrest for assault at a bar before meeting Leo's father. I was printing papers when someone behind me cleared their throat. Mrs. Patterson, the most vocal parent volunteer, stood with her arms crossed. "Shouldn't you be at lunch?" I took the papers and shoved them inside my rucksack. "Just finishing homework." That afternoon, Mom was waiting in the principal's office when I was summoned. Mrs. Patterson sat next to her, looking smug. Principal Harris held up the printed sheets. "Care to explain why you're researching restraining orders during school hours?" Mom's face was stoned. "We'll discuss this at home." We drove silently till we reached our driveway. Then Mom exploded. "Mrs. Patterson told me everything. You're obsessed with defending these people. What's wrong with you?" "What's wrong with me? What's wrong with everyone else?" I exclaimed back. "You're destroying an innocent family because you're too stubborn to look at evidence. Go to your room. You're not leaving this house except for school until you get your head straight." I stomped upstairs, slamming my door. Mrs. Patterson's house was across the street, visible from my window. She had probably already texted the other moms about my concerning behavior at school. The next day, things got worse. When I sat down, the kids moved away. My normal lunch table was unexpectedly filled. Even the teachers looked at me differently. Leo caught my eye in the hallway and said, "I'm sorry." I ate lunch alone in the bathroom stall, strategizing my next steps. Mom had taken away my phone and limited my computer access, but she couldn't stop me from using school resources. I simply needed to be more strategic about it. Over the next week, I established a routine. I'd volunteer to assist teachers after school, and then use their computers after they got out. I discovered more about Vanessa. She has been sacked from 3 jobs due to interpersonal difficulties. Prior to being private, her social media was filled with rants about ex-boyfriends who had hurt her. Leo began leaving me notes in library books. Small updates concerning his father. They lost another job interview when they Googled him. The landlord wants us out before the end of the month. Dad refuses to eat and insists that food be sent to me. Every note made me furious. I began writing everything down in a notebook I kept hidden in my locker, including evidence, dates, and links. I was building a case. Then Mom learned about the after-school computer use. Mrs. Patterson's daughter saw me and reported back. Mom arrived at school furious. "I've had enough," she told Principal Harris. "I'm concerned about the influence this family has on my son. He's lying, sneaking around, obsessing over them." Principal Harris nodded gravely. We've noticed changes in his behavior too. I want assurance that my son will have no contact with Leo at school. We'll do our best to monitor the situation. They rearranged my lessons so that I would not see Leo. They allocated me a separate lunch period. A guidance counselor began taking me out of class for check-ins, asking how I was doing and if I wanted to discuss my recent choices. But they couldn't stop me from thinking, preparing and knowing that somewhere in town, Leo and his father were suffering, because everyone preferred comfortable lies to terrible truth. One day, I encountered Leo's father at the grocery store. He purchased the cheapest bread and a jar of peanut butter. His clothes hung loosely, as if he had lost weight. When he noticed me, he quickly looked away and went to the checkout. I followed him out. "Mr. Davidson." He paused but did not turn around. "You shouldn't talk to me. It'll make things worse for you." "I know the truth." Leo showed me. His shoulders sagged. "The truth doesn't matter when no one wants to hear it." "I want to help." He eventually turned. His eyes were red-rimmed and weary. "You're a good kid. But stay away from us. For your own sake." He sped away in his car. Predator, barely visible beneath a layer of poor paint. That night, Mom arrived in my room with her laptop. "I want to show you something." She opened up the parent Facebook group. Post after post regarding Leo's father. I saw him prowling near the playground. He followed my daughter inside the store. "Why is he not in jail yet?" "These are lies," I replied. "He's just existing. And they're making it sound criminal." Mom closed the laptop, thinking, 300 parents can't all be wrong. "I'm trying to protect you. This man is manipulating you through his son. You're the one being manipulated by gossip and fear." "Enough." Mom stood up. "I've made appointments with a therapist. Someone who specializes in children who've been influenced by dangerous individuals." My blood became chilly. "You think I'm brainwashed? I think you're confused. And I'm going to fix this." She left me alone to deal with my wrath. They were erecting walls around me, attempting to force me to abandon Leo and his father. However, walls had never stopped me before. Late that night, I heard Mom on the phone. "Yes, I'm very concerned. He's obsessed with proving their innocence, taking pictures of supposed evidence. I think they've really gotten into his head." I recognized the deliberate tone. She was constructing her own case, portraying me as unstable, obsessed, and manipulated, the same strategy Vanessa had used against Leo's father. I stared at the ceiling, contemplating. Everyone accepted the story because it was easier than challenging it. Because a mother's tears in court were more powerful than a father's silent denials. Because shifting the story required acknowledging you were wrong. Nobody wanted to accept that they had helped destroy an innocent family. But I had time. I was determined. And most importantly, I knew the truth. They may confiscate my phone, ban my computer, and separate me from Leo at school. They may whisper about me, isolate me, or even send me to therapy. But they couldn't change what I already understood. Leo's father was innocent. Leo was struggling, and I was determined to prove it to everyone, even if it meant becoming a pariah myself. Even if it meant fighting my mother, even if the entire town turns against me. Because sometimes telling the truth is worth being the villain in everyone else's story. The following morning I awoke with a plan. It was hazardous, certainly stupid, and would undoubtedly land me in further trouble. However, Leo's most recent note stated that they had 2 weeks until eviction. Change everything in 2 weeks. 2 weeks to reveal Vanessa's lies. 2 weeks to save my friend's family. I got ready for school, kissed Mom goodbye as if nothing was wrong, and mentally prepared for combat. They believed they had shattered me via isolation, therapy, and threats. They had no idea what I was capable of once I realized I was correct. The therapy appointment was planned for Thursday, giving us 3 days to work with. I strolled into school that morning with my notepad tucked under my shirt, knowing Mrs. Patterson's daughter would be observing everything I did. During the first period, I asked to use the restroom but instead went into the computer lab. The room was empty save for a 7th grade student working on a project. I got into a terminal in the corner and accessed Vanessa's social media profiles through a fictitious account I'd constructed weeks earlier. Her posts from 3 years ago showed a different picture than the grieving mother everyone saw now. Photos from bars, angry rants about deadbeat men, and one particularly illuminating post. Some people simply need to learn their lesson the hard way. I always get exactly what I want in the end. I took a screenshot of everything and emailed it to a new account before the bell rung. As I returned to class, I observed that Leo was not in his regular spot. His desk remained empty. At lunch, I discovered his message in our regular book. Dad collapsed yesterday. Not eating enough. The hospital refuses to admit him since he does not have insurance. We're sleeping in the car right now. My hands shook while I read it. They were living in their car, while Vanessa probably sat comfortably in the house that Leo's father had purchased for. I needed to go quicker. After school, I informed Mom that I was staying for math tutoring. She said she'd check with the teacher later, but that gave me an hour. I dashed to the public library 6 streets away. The computers there did not require student logins. I had been browsing for 20 minutes when Vanessa strolled in. She looked nothing like the shattered woman in the court images, with her fine clothes, freshly manicured nails, and confident walk. She went straight for the fiction department, and I hid behind my monitor. My heart raced as she shopped, periodically looking around. Was she here by chance, or did someone inform her about my library visits? She left after 10 minutes, but I couldn't shake the sensation she had noticed me. I packed things and took an alternative way home, passing through the park. Mom waited on the porch. Math tutoring ended an hour ago. I walked with some friends. Mrs. Patterson saw you at the library. She pulled up her phone, displaying a photo of me at the computer. She's concerned you're still investigating that family. I remained mute as she ushered me inside. The therapy appointment couldn't come soon enough for her. That night, I overheard an argument downstairs. Dad had returned home from a business trip, and Mom was filling him in. He's obsessed, Tom, taking pictures of documents, researching the mother, defending them constantly. Maybe we should hear him out, Dad remarked calmly. What if there's more to the story? Not you too, Mom said, her voice rising. That man is dangerous. The whole community knows it. The whole community has been wrong before, Dad said. Their dispute continued, but I remained hopeful. Dad had always been more reasonable and less influenced by gossip. Perhaps I could persuade him. The next morning, Leo was not at school. I overheard teachers say he had been absent for 3 days. Probably too embarrassed to show his face, a friend commented, after what his father did. I wanted to scream that they had it wrong, but I remained silent. Let them assume I had given up. During library time, I discovered a message in our book. But it wasn't Leo's handwriting. Stop digging, or your friend will suffer the price. Vanessa knew. She was aware I was scrutinizing her. My palms trembled as I pocketed the note. This was going beyond parental drama and school gossip. After school, I convinced Dad to take me past Leo's old flat. The automobile was not in the parking lot. We investigated 3 additional lots until I found it behind a supermarket shop. Leo's father was slumped in the driver's seat, while Leo was curled up in the back. Dad, please, I implored. Look at them. Does that look like a dangerous man to you? Dad stared for a long time. Get back in the car. But instead of driving home, he stopped at the grocery store. He purchased 2 grocery bags and a hot rotisserie chicken. Stay here, he said. I watched as he approached their car and softly knocked on the window. Leo's father sprang awake, panic blazing across his face. But Dad simply held up the bags. They spoke for a few minutes, with Leo's father shaking his head constantly. Dad eventually left the goods on their hood and walked back. He wouldn't take them at first, Dad muttered as we drove away. Said he didn't want charity. I told him it wasn't charity, just one father helping another. That night, Dad and Mom got into another disagreement. But this time, I heard my father say, "What if we're wrong, Janet? What if we're destroying an innocent family?" Thursday came too quickly. The therapist's office smelled of vanilla candles and had inspiring posters on every wall. Dr. Reeves appeared precisely as I had expected, wire-rimmed glasses, a compassionate smile, and a notebook ready. Your mother tells me you've been defending a classmate whose father has a concerning history, she says. I chose my words carefully. I've seen evidence that the story everyone believes might not be true. Sometimes when we care about someone, we want to believe the best about them, she stated with tenderness. But that can blind us to red flags. What if the red flags are pointing at the wrong person? We went in circles for an hour. She'd say I was being manipulated, but I'd dispute with facts. She'd talk about trusting community judgment, and I'd point out that communities have made mistakes in the past. By the end, she appeared frustrated. I'd like to see you weekly, she informed Mom. He's showing signs of oppositional defiance. Great. I now had a label. Friday morning I found Leo in school. He looked terrible, unwashed clothes, lifeless eyes and slightly shaky hands. Are you all right? I whispered as I passed. He shook his head slightly. She called Dad yesterday. Said she'd drop the restraining order if we came back. Dad said no. She got angry. What did she do? Nothing yet. That's what scares me. During lunch I utilized a teacher's computer while she was attending a meeting. I told her I needed to print my assignment. Instead, I logged into the email account where I was storing evidence. There was a new message. There's no sender name. Just, you were warned. I sent a snapshot of myself at the library computer, taken from behind. Vanessa had been observing me that day. My phone vibrated with a text from an unknown number. Mom had stolen my phone, but I had concealed the old one in my locker. Your friend looks tired. Sleeping in cars is so dangerous. Anything could happen. I took a screenshot of the threat and added it to my evidence file. Vanessa was growing bolder. That afternoon, Principal Harris summoned me to his office. Mom was present, along with Mrs. Patterson and 2 other parent helpers. We're concerned about your behavior, Harris said. Multiple parents have reported seeing you researching private information about a family in our community. I'm trying to help them, I explained. By spreading lies? Mrs. Patterson leaned nearer. That poor woman has suffered enough without you dragging her name through the mud. Have any of you actually looked at the evidence? I questioned them. Or are you just believing what you want to believe? Mother's face reddened. Apologize. Now. For what? Asking questions. The meeting progressed from there. They discussed suspension, limiting my computer access at school, and increasing treatment to twice a week. I sat there, allowing them to prepare my punishment, while Leo and his father slept in their car. That night, I overheard Mom on the phone with Vanessa. I'm so sorry for what my son has been doing. Yes, we're handling it. No, he won't bother you anymore. Of course, if there's anything else. She apologized to the abuser and promised to hush me. I wanted to shout. On Saturday morning, Dad took me to get a haircut. On the way, he murmured quietly. I drove by that grocery store again last night. They're still there, because they have nowhere else to go. Your mother means well, he remarked. She's trying to protect you. From what? From helping innocent people? Dad remained quiet for a long time. Show me your evidence. I stared at him. Really? I'm willing to look. But if I'm not convinced, you drop this. Deal? I consented quickly. That night, when Mom was at book club, I showed Dad everything. The images Leo had provided, the court records, Vanessa's social media posts, her history of restraining orders, and the threatening texts. Dad examined each item carefully. His expression became more concerned with each page. This is substantial, he finally said. So, you believe me? I believe there's more to this story than we've been told. He wiped his face. But your mother will never accept this. Neither will the community. They've invested too much in their version. So we just let them suffer? I didn't say that. Dad paused. But we need to be smart about this. Vanessa clearly knows you're investigating. These threats. We should go to the police. With what? She's careful. Nothing directly threatening enough for them to act on. Dad's phone rang. Mom called to let me know that the book club was going to stop early. He swiftly assisted me in concealing the evidence. We'll figure something out, he said. But be careful, don't do anything reckless. Sunday passed quietly. Too quiet. No notes from Leo. Vanessa made no threats. The serenity made me worried. Monday morning, everything burst. I arrived at school to see police cruisers in the parking lot. Students gathered in clusters and whispered excitedly. I pushed through till I saw what was going on. Leo's father was in handcuffs. Leo stood near a police cruiser, tears running down his cheeks. Vanessa was also present, clutching a bloodied tissue to her nose and talking animatedly with an officer. He attacked me, she said. I just wanted to talk about our son, and he went crazy. I quickly realized what had happened. She'd provoked him in some way, possibly by injuring herself, and had phoned the police. The classic abuser approach is to elicit a reaction and then play the victim. That's not true, I exclaimed, pushing ahead. She's lying. An officer stopped me. Stay back, son. But I have evidence. She's the abuser, not him. Vanessa's gaze met mine over the officer's shoulder. She grinned faintly. Proudly. They put Leo's father in the police car. Leo tried to accompany him, but Vanessa grabbed his arm. You're coming home with me, sweetheart. Where you belong. No. Leo attempted to pull away. I won't go with you. He's my son, Vanessa informed the authorities. I have custody. He's just confused because his father has been filling his head with lies. They made Leo accompany her. I stared helplessly as she escorted him to her car, her grip tightening on his arm. He stared back at me, horrified. At home, I told Dad everything. He immediately contacted a lawyer acquaintance, but the news was not good. With Vanessa's latest claim, Leo's father is certain to be jailed at least overnight. Vanessa had every right to take Leo, under the current custody rules. We need those threats she sent, Dad replied. They show she's been planning this. However, when I checked my disguised phone, the messages were gone. She managed to remove them remotely. I still had the screenshots in my inbox. But would anyone believe they were genuine? That night, I laid awake thinking about Leo in the house with her. Was she hurting him? Was he okay? On Tuesday morning, Leo did not attend school. I overheard teachers say Vanessa contacted to say he was traumatized and needed time to recover. I knew better. She was keeping him imprisoned. I sneaked out at lunchtime. I knew I had promised Dad not to be reckless, but I couldn't abandon Leo there. I rushed 8 blocks to Vanessa's house. Even when the curtains were drawn, I could hear shouting from inside. Then there was a crash. Then Leo's voice, high and terrified. Please, Mom, I'm sorry. I dialed 911 from my secret phone. I think someone's being hurt at 438 Maple Street. I can hear screaming and things breaking. I waited behind a tree until the police arrived. They knocked, and Vanessa responded calmly. Officers, is something wrong? We received a call about a disturbance. Oh, that must have been the TV, I was watching an action movie. Sorry if it was too loud. They purchased it. They actually purchased it. I wanted to shout that Leo was in there, possibly injured, but I knew they'd only call my parents. Vanessa went onto her porch after they had left and looked directly at my hiding spot. I know you're there, she said pleasantly. Leo wants to tell you something. Leo came at the doorway. Even at a distance, I could see the crimson mark on his cheek. Stop trying to help, he stated stiffly. You're making everything worse. Just leave us alone. Vanessa squeezed his shoulder. He read from a script. I dashed back to school, arriving just as lunchtime finished. My teacher marked me tardy, but I didn't mind. I needed to do something. That afternoon, I made my decision. If the adults won't listen to proof, perhaps they will listen to Leo himself. I began shooting movies on my disguised phone, documenting everything. The dates, the timeline, and the threats I had screenshotted before they were removed. My name is Narrator, I told you, and I'm about to tell you the truth about Catherine Davidson. I uploaded it to YouTube that night and surreptitiously shared the link on the parent Facebook group. Within 1 hour, it received 50 views, then 100. Then Mom burst into my room. What have you done? The video was already being debated within the group. Some parents called me a liar, while others asked questions. Why would a 12-year-old make this up? What did he have to gain? You're grounded indefinitely, Mom explained. No school, no leaving the house, nothing until you take that video down. Excuse me? I asked. Number ground me forever if you want, but that video stays up. Dad appeared at the doorway. Janet, have you watched it? I don't need to watch lies about that poor woman. I watched it, Dad remarked quietly. And I think we need to consider that our son might be telling the truth. They argued for an hour. Mom accused Dad of enabling my delusions. Dad brought out the evidence I had presented. Finally, Mom stormed away, stating she was going to stay with her sister until this family came to its senses. Wednesday morning, the video received 2,000 views. Comments came in. Some individuals referred to me as a brat, but others told their own memories of false charges and how difficult it was for male abuse victims to be believed. Then Vanessa struck back. A new video has debuted on the parent Facebook page. Security camera from a store captured me stalking her at the library. Another image of me prowling outside her house. She had modified them to remove context, making me appear obsessed and threatening. This disturbed child has been harassing my family, her tweet stated. His father should be investigated for encouraging this behavior. I fear for my safety, and my son's. The tide shifted against us immediately. Parents demanded action. Some demanded that Dad be fired from his job for aiding stalking, while others wanted me institutionalized. Principal Harris phoned Dad. I was suspended indefinitely pending a psychological evaluation. Therapy appointments were now required, not optional. But something unexpected occurred. Leo's father's lawyer saw my footage. He called Dad that afternoon. "Your son's video is the first real help we've gotten," he joked. "Would he testify about what he's witnessed?" "He's 12, Dad explained. And the community has already turned against him." "I understand. But that video is making people outside your community ask questions. Sometimes that's all it takes." One crack in the narrative. That night, I was unable to sleep. Leo was still confined with Vanessa. His father was still in jail. My family is also coming apart. But the video was still available and spreading. Perhaps it will reach someone who can help. Thursday's breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A woman named Sarah commented on my video. "Catherine Davidson was my roommate in college. Everything this kid is saying tracks with what I saw. She put her ex-boyfriend in the hospital and convinced everyone he was the aggressor. I have photos." Sarah's remark contained photos from 20 years ago, showing Vanessa with bruised knuckles, smiling about teaching him a lesson. According to police files, she was the aggressor but negotiated her way out of charges. I screenshotted everything before Vanessa could erase it. But Sarah did more than just comment. She called the police station where Leo's father was being kept. She called the local news stations. She contacted everybody who would listen. "I stayed quiet 20 years ago," she told a reporter. "I won't make that mistake again." By Friday, Vanessa's story was beginning to unravel. The surveillance footage she had released was being questioned. Why did she film a child? How did she gather film from multiple locations? It appeared more like stalking than being stalked. Leo's father's lawyer used my footage and Sarah's testimony to seek an emergency custody hearing. The judge agreed to review the case on Monday. But Vanessa was not done. Friday afternoon, she called Dad's office, stating he had threatened her. She had a recording, carefully edited from a voicemail he had left, urging her to allow Leo return to school. Dad's supervisor summoned him in. There would be an investigation. Meanwhile, Dad was suspended with pay. "I'm sorry," I told him that night. "I ruined everything." "No," Dad replied forcefully. "You stood up. For the truth. That's never wrong, even when it costs us." Mom was still not home. She texted Dad that she would not return unless I sought therapy for my fixation. Our family was divided, much like Leo's. Saturday, I spent the day refreshing the video statistics. There are currently 50,000 views. It was picked up by many news outlets. "Local boy's video sparks debate about believing abuse victims," read one headline. The comment section was a battleground. Vanessa's fans labeled me a monster. However, more people began to share their own stories, including men who had been assaulted and not believed, as well as children who had witnessed their fathers being destroyed by false charges. The story was shifting. Then Sarah posted again. This time she had video. Vanessa admitting to lying about her boyfriend on an outdated camcorder from college. "He was going to leave me," Vanessa stated in the shaky footage. "So I made sure nobody would believe him when he tried." The smoking gun. I instantly downloaded it and saved it wherever I could think of. This was the proof that everyone needed. But Vanessa made one last desperate move. Saturday night, she announced on Facebook that Leo had fled. "My troubled son has been so brainwashed by his father's lies that he's fled our home. Please help me find him." The police issued an alarm. The entire community was searching for Leo. Vanessa portrayed the desperate mother well, even giving an emotional interview to local news. I knew better. Leo would not run away. He had nowhere to go. Which implied Vanessa had done something with him, like hide him somewhere to make her narrative more credible. I contacted the police with my theory, but they dismissed it. "The boy who made the video is not a credible source," they informed us. So, I did the only thing I could think of. I went live on social media. "Leo Davidson didn't run away," I told my phone camera. "His mother is hiding him somewhere. She's done this before. Sarah's evidence proves it. Leo is in danger. Please, someone help find him." The live video circulated quicker than anything I'd previously posted. People began sharing Leo's photo, but not Vanessa's narrative. They shared it with warnings. "This boy may be held against his will by his mother." Tips flowed in. Someone had spotted Vanessa's automobile at an abandoned property outside town. Another person noticed weird noises from a storage unit she hired. Faced with rising public pressure, the police had to conduct an investigation. They discovered Leo imprisoned in Vanessa's storage container with a sleeping bag and some water. She had told him that if he left, she would phone his father. The news broke on Sunday morning. Vanessa was arrested. Leo was safe, traumatized, but physically unhurt. Vanessa was led away in handcuffs by police while screaming about conspiracy, and the footage was all over the place. But the real vindication came when they looked at Leo's medical data with new eyes. The pattern was clear. Injuries consistent with abuse, all prior to his parents' separation, and all when he resided mostly with Vanessa. Leo's father was released immediately. The charges were withdrawn. The reunion video showing Leo sprinting into his father's arms went viral. The community that had condemned them was compelled to admit an uncomfortable truth. They had been mistaken. They had chosen comforting lies over painful evidence. They'd almost destroyed an innocent family because believing a mother's tears was simpler than doubting the story. Some people apologized. Principal Harris personally contacted to lift my suspension and Leo's father's school ban. Mrs. Patterson, shockingly, arrived at our home with a casserole and an emotional apology. Others, however, refused to back down, arguing that Vanessa was still the true victim and that we had all been duped. The parent Facebook group divided into parts. Friendships terminated. The community, which had before been united in its hatred, was now divided by truth. Mom arrived home Sunday night. She paused in the doorway to my room for a long time before speaking. I was wrong, she admitted simply. I was so focused on protecting you that I refused to see what was right in front of me. You were doing what you thought was right, I told you. No. She shook her head. I was doing what was easy. Believing what everyone else believed, because questioning it was too hard. Our family began healing. Slowly. The therapy sessions that Dr. Reeves insisted on became family sessions in which we went through what had transpired. Sarah established a GoFundMe, which helped Leo and his father find a new apartment. The same community that had spurned them suddenly donated thousands to help them begin again. At school, things were different. Some children treated me like a hero. Others whispered that I was a troublemaker who had destroyed a family. Leo and I ate lunch together, without caring what others thought. Thank you, he said one day, for not giving up, even when it cost you everything. You would have done the same for me, I answered. I don't know if I would have been brave enough, he said. To stand alone against everyone, to keep fighting when your own family turned against you. That took real courage. Vanessa's trial was months away, but her reputation had been shattered. The reality has finally caught up to her meticulously planned lies. She had lost her son, her freedom, and the sympathy she had been using for so long. The true victory, however, was not her defeat. Leo's smile returned. It was his father finding a new job, with no murmurs following him. It was a community gradually realizing that the truth is often more complex than the story they wish to accept. I also learned something. Standing up for the truth is not easy. It loses you friends, separates families, and causes you to doubt everything. But when you know you're right, when someone's life is at stake, you keep going, even if it means becoming the villain in everyone else's story. Because heroes must do such things on sometimes. Monday morning brought mayhem. The emergency custody hearing was planned at 2 p.m., but Vanessa refused to give up without a fight. She had hired 3 lawyers and launched a publicity campaign overnight, appearing on morning shows and alleging she was being persecuted by an online mob. I watched from my bedroom as she sobbed on television about how her troubled ex-husband had turned their children against her. She pulled up printed screenshots of my video, claiming it was harassment. The host nodded sympathetically as Vanessa described herself as a victim of cyberbullying. Dad knocked on my door. The lawyer wants to prepare you for testimony. Are you ready for this? I nodded, but my hands shook. It was one thing to broadcast films online, and another to face Vanessa in court. We met Mr. Chen, Leo's father's lawyer, in his office. He appeared fatigued, but determined. Your video changed everything, he said to me. But Vanessa's team will try to discredit you. They'll say you're just a kid who got manipulated. What should I say? The truth. Stick to facts, not opinions. And whatever you do, don't let them rattle you. Leo was also present, seated between his father and a social worker. He looked better than when I last saw him at Vanessa's house, but he still had shadows under his eyes. Every time Leo moved, the social worker would write a note. Leo murmured, "They're evaluating me," as she stepped out. To see if I'm being coached. The courthouse was packed. Parents from the school filled the gallery, separated into distinct camps. Mrs. Patterson sat behind Vanessa, and curiously, Mrs. Chen from the library sat on our side. Local news cameras waited outside. Vanessa entered wearing a conservative suit and blotting her tears with a tissue. She'd even prepared props, including a photo album of happier moments with Leo that she hugged tightly. The judge, a strict woman named Rodriguez, ordered the proceedings to order. Vanessa's lawyers quickly sought to exclude my testimony, describing me as an emotionally unstable child with an unhealthy infatuation. "Your Honor," said a lawyer, "this boy has stalked my client, posted defamatory videos, and encouraged a hate campaign against a protective mother." Mr. Chen stood up. "Your Honor, this boy uncovered evidence of systematic abuse that authorities missed. His testimony is crucial." Judge Rodriguez gave me a long look. "I'll allow it, but I'll be watching for any signs of coaching." Vanessa testified first. She was pretty good. She cried at the appropriate times, her voice breaking as she detailed Leo's father's violent anger and how she had lived in fear for years. She displayed images of bruises that were artfully edited to mask their age. "I only wanted to protect my son," she cried. "But his father poisoned him against me." Then began the cross-examination. Mr. Chen opened Sarah's movie on a laptop. "Ms. Davidson, do you recognize your own voice saying, 'I made sure nobody would believe him when he tried'?" Vanessa's face turned white. "That's taken out of context. I was young, dramatic." "Were you being dramatic when you locked your son in a storage unit?" "I was protecting him. He was going to run to his father." "By imprisoning him." Vanessa's lawyers objected constantly, but the harm had been done. Her disguise was sliding. Following that, Leo testified. His voice was calm but steady as he showed the judge his burn scars and described the pattern of torture. Vanessa kept trying to get his attention, mouthing, "I love you," every time the judge looked away. "She'd hurt us, then cry and say we made her do it," Leo recalled. "She'd say if we told anyone, they'd take me away forever." Then it was my turn. My legs felt like jello as I stood up. Vanessa looked at me with loathing. Her lawyer quickly attacked. "Isn't it true you have no friends except Leo?" "I have friends. But Leo was your first real friend, wasn't he? You'd do anything to keep that friendship." I remembered Mr. Chen's advice. Stick to facts. "I saw evidence of abuse. I reported it." "You mean you saw what Leo wanted you to see? You took photos without permission, stalked my client." "I investigated the truth." "You're 12 years old. What makes you qualified to investigate anything?" I straightened up. "Being 12 doesn't make me stupid. It just means adults think they can lie to me." Gasps echoed across the gallery. The lawyer's cheeks turned red. "Your Honor, this child's disrespect is honest," Judge Rodriguez interrupted. "Continue, young man. I told them everything. Timeline, evidence, and Vanessa's threats." Her lawyers kept objecting, but I remained calm. Factual. When they displayed the stalking videos, I explained their context. Vanessa knew I was gathering evidence, so she gathered her own, I recalled. But she had to edit it, because the truth didn't support her story. During recess, Vanessa surrounded me in the corridor while Dad was in the restroom. "You little brat," she yelled, "you've ruined everything." I moved away, but she followed. "Leo will never forgive you for this. You've destroyed our family." "No," I replied, loud enough for others to hear. "You destroyed it. I just showed everyone how." A bailiff entered, and Vanessa swiftly reverted to her mourning mother, but several people had observed the incident. When court reopened, 3 parents requested to testify. They'd been in Vanessa's inner circle but had their reservations. One mother revealed how Vanessa advised her on what to post in the Facebook group. Another said Vanessa had asked her to lie about seeing Leo's father near the playground. "I thought I was helping," the woman admitted, mortified. "She seemed so convincing." Vanessa's lawyers scrambled, but more fissures emerged. An expert reviewed the hospital documents she had submitted and identified irregularities. The bruise images were analyzed and discovered to be several years old, predating the split. By 4 p.m., Vanessa's story had totally unraveled. But she had one more card to play. "Your Honor," she rose up, ignoring her lawyer's attempts to stop her. "If you give Leo to his father, I'll kill myself. I can't live without my son. His blood will be on your hands." The courtroom exploded. Leo began crying. His father tried to console him as Vanessa sobbed dramatically. Judge Rodriguez smashed the gavel. "Miss Davidson, you've just made a threat of self-harm to manipulate this court. Bailiff, please escort Miss Davidson for psychiatric evaluation." Vanessa lunged at Leo. "No." But was held by cops. "He's my son. You can't take him." As they took her out, she yelled at me, "This is your fault. You did this." The court ordered a recess to allow everyone to cool down. In the corridor, Vanessa's supporters appeared stunned. Mrs. Patterson approached me hesitantly. I owe you an apology, she explained quietly. I was so sure. She's a mother. Mothers can be abusers too, I said. She flinched and nodded. I helped spread those lies about Leo's father. I don't know how to fix that. Start by telling the truth, I advised. When the court reconvened, Judge Rodriguez read her verdict. Emergency custody to Leo's dad, pending full review. Vanessa will undergo psychiatric evaluation and supervised visits only if deemed safe. This court also recognizes the extraordinary courage of a young man who stood up for truth, despite significant personal cost, she said as she glanced at me. Adults failed Leo Davidson. A 12-year-old didn't. Outside the courthouse, reporters flocked. Dad sheltered me, but I overheard their queries. How does it feel to be a hero? What made you keep fighting? I was not a hero. I was just a child who couldn't bear witnessing injustice. That night our phone repeatedly rang. News outlets. Talk shows. Everyone wanted to know the story. Dad turned them all down. You've been through enough, he stated. Mom sat beside me on the couch. I'm proud of you, she stated. And I'm sorry I didn't listen. You were trying to protect me from the wrong thing, she told me. I was so afraid of the monster everyone described that I couldn't see the real monster hiding in plain sight. Tuesday, I returned to school. The hallways felt odd. Kids began to whisper, but not all of it was bad. Some people nodded respectfully. Others still believed I was a troublemaker who had destroyed a family. Leo was also there. We sat together at lunch and ignored the looks. My dad got a job interview, he remarked. A company owner saw the news and said anyone who survived what he did deserves a chance. That's great. It's in another state, Leo explained gently. Dad thinks we need a fresh start. My heart fell. Regardless, I was losing my best friend. When? If he gets it. Next month, maybe. The remainder of the week seemed strange. Vanessa posted bail, but was told to stay away from Leo and his father. She quickly took to social media, alleging she was being persecuted, but her support had disappeared. Even her lawyers quietly dropped the case. Principal Harris gave an assembly about rushing to judgment and the value of evidence. He didn't specifically mention Leo's family, but everyone knew. Some of the teachers who had previously been chilly to Leo went overboard in their attempts to be pleasant, making things awkward. Dad's supervisor called him back to work early, apologizing for his suspension. We had to investigate the complaint, he replied. But it's clear now it was harassment. Our family slowly regained its rhythm. Mom and Dad were cautious around each other, rebuilding trust. When Dr. Reeves saw the true circumstances, the treatment session she had ordered became more beneficial. You showed remarkable moral courage, I was informed. But it's okay to feel angry about what it cost you. I was angry. Angry at the adults who'd believed lies so easily. Angry at the system that almost let Vanessa win. Angry that doing the right thing had nearly destroyed my family too. Sarah made a call on Friday afternoon. She was flying in to attend Vanessa's criminal trial. I wanted to thank you, she explained. For 20 years, I've carried guilt about staying silent. You gave me a chance to make it right. You helped save Leo, I remarked. We both did. But you started it. A 12-year-old had more courage than I did at 22. That weekend, the main Facebook group collapsed. Vanessa's private communications have been leaked, with screenshots advising parents on what to post. Some parents turned against one another, disputing about who was most to blame. The group eventually disbanded totally. Mrs. Patterson formed a new organization focusing solely on confirmed information. She requested me to moderate it. I declined. I had had enough of parental drama. Leo's father got the job. They would be relocating to Oregon in 3 weeks. We spent every day after school together, attempting to squeeze years of friendship into days. I'll pay a visit, Leo pledged. And there's video chat. It's not the same. No, he agrees. But it's better than me being trapped with her. Vanessa's psychiatric evaluation confirmed what everyone already knew. She had a history of deception and abuse dating back decades. She was charged with false imprisonment, child abuse, and false reporting. Her trial would last months. The Tuesday before Leo departed, we sat in the park where it all began, where his father had defended me from bullies what seemed like a lifetime ago. I never thanked you properly, Leo said. For everything. You don't need to thank me. Yes, I do. He took out a wrapped present. Dad and I got you something. Inside was a compass on a chain, simple and elegant. So you always know the right direction, Leo explained. Even when everyone else is lost. I put it on right away. It felt right. Their moving day arrived too quickly. The entire neighborhood watched as they loaded the truck. Some had the courtesy to show shame. Others simply stared. Leo's father shook my hand. You saved our lives, he replied simply. I'll never forget that. Take care of him, I instructed. Always. Leo hugged me tightly. Best friend forever. Forever, I said. I watched their pickup disappear around the bend, the compass resting against my chest. Mom placed her arm around me. You did a good thing, she replied. Even though it hurts now. That night, I sat to my computer and began typing. Not another video or expose, just a simple post. Sometimes telling the truth costs everything. To rescue your best friend, you may have to lose them. Sometimes being correct feels worse than being incorrect. But the truth matters. Justice is important. And occasionally a 12-year-old needs to remind grown-ups of this. I posted it and shut down my laptop. Tomorrow will present fresh challenges. There will probably be new fights. Vanessa's trial looms. The community remained fragmented. Some people will never forgive me for revealing their cozy lies. But tonight, I held the compass and recalled Leo's joy at the courthouse when the judge declared him free. It made everything worthwhile. My phone buzzed with a message from Leo. Made it to Oregon. Dad smiled. Really smiling. Thank you. I smiled too. For the first time in months, I smiled genuinely. My family begged me home for Christmas, then dumped their kids on me, left for a spa trip, so I canceled it, called CPS, and walked away. I've always been the family's backup. My father, a 59-year-old guy, believes that yelling implies leadership. My mother, a 56-year-old woman, is the perennial peacemaker who never challenges him. My sister Lena, a 31-year-old woman, was the ideal child who never had to grow up. She could bat her eyes and avoid doing chores while I mowed lawns in the rain. When our parents were screwed by the 2009 housing meltdown, I was starting my career at a mid-sized computer business that sold software solutions to healthcare providers. The money was not fantastic, but it was consistent. I was living in an apartment with two other guys and trying to pay down my student loans. Then my father called to inform them that they might lose the house. It began with simple tasks like assisting with groceries or bills when money was tight. $100 here will cover the electricity bill there. Not a big thing, right? When Lena divorced her deadbeat spouse, it turned into co-signing for her automobile. Family helps family, my parents repeatedly said. It was only temporary till they got back on their feet. That was 8 years ago. Before I knew it, I was supporting their entire lives while working 60+ hours per week at a job I barely liked. I start calling clients in New York at 6 a.m. and work on West Coast accounts until 7 p.m. I literally placed a little fridge next to my desk because I rarely have time for a lunch break. 5 years in, I was sending them roughly $3,800 each month. Their mortgage totaled $1,615. Utilities cost $420. Lena's car payment is $375. Her kids' activities cost $300. Streaming services cost $75. Cell phones cost $210. Even DoorDash charges $400 because it's difficult to go to the store with kids. Meanwhile, I was living in a one-bedroom apartment in Miami, sharing walls with college students because that's all I could afford while supporting their lifestyles in Portland. I attempted to bring it up several times. I asked my father if he would look for work. He'd complain about his back problems and how nobody wanted to hire someone his age. I asked my mother if she could work some part-time hours elsewhere. She would cry and declare she needed to be there for Lena's children. When I asked Lena about jobs, she mentioned how difficult it is to get child care even if our parents live with her. Lena's parenting is an absolute joke. In terms of her children, she has the attention span of a goldfish with ADHD. Last Thanksgiving, her daughter had a 102-degree fever, but Lena was too busy sharing toilet selfies to notice. Mom ended up caring for her while Lena went out that night for mental health reasons. When I suggested that staying at home with a sick child could be a priority, my father genuinely remarked, "Your sister has a lot on her plate. She's a single mom." Yeah. Many women do not forsake their feverish children to go get shots with equally useless acquaintances. I once FaceTimed them unannounced. Her 4-year-old was teetering in a chair, attempting to reach peanut butter, while she looked through her phone on the couch. The child nearly face-planted, and she didn't flinch. When I called her out, she chuckled and said, "He's got to learn things sometime. He's 4. Meanwhile, she'd been texting all week about needing money for the kids' winter outfits while sporting a new manicure that wasn't from a DIY kit. Every talk ended the same way. I felt like an awful man for asking. So I stopped asking and just kept paying and working, letting my 30s pass away while they lived in a house I paid for. It all culminated with a phone call at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday in December. I was half asleep when my phone started vibrating. Seeing my father's name appear made my stomach plummet instantly. With him, it's never just a simple, "Hey, how's life?" call. It's usually an emergency or fast favor that ends up costing me hundreds of dollars. I almost didn't answer, to be honest, but I did. He got right to the point and asked if I could come to Portland for Christmas. He stated that having the entire family together would be very important to him. His voice was significantly quieter than usual, which immediately raised red flags. "Your mom misses you," she replied. "And Lena's kids keep asking when Uncle's coming to visit." That was probably not a lie. Despite their circumstances, my niece, a 6-year-old female, and nephew, a 4-year-old male, are good children. They're really the only reason I picked up the phone at all. "I know it's last minute," said the man, "but we really want you here. Family Christmas, you know, like the old days." Against my better judgment, I said yes. Then I booked an expensive flight to Portland, $897 round trip due to holiday pricing. I abandoned everything at work, and even got presents for everyone. I also rented a car despite Dad's advice not to bother. An extra $340 I didn't have to spend. I learned the hard way that relying on them for transportation means being tied to their timetable. I should have known something was up when my father didn't dispute the dates, didn't inquire about my travel information, and didn't even offer to pick me up at the airport. He simply appeared relieved that I had said yes and ended the phone fast. Still, like an idiot, I assumed they wanted to spend time with me. Maybe this time will be different. As soon as I stepped out of PDX, I was assaulted by the strong, wet Portland rain. Due to holiday traffic, I had to wait about 20 minutes for my Uber, and the travel to their location felt longer than the flight itself. When we eventually arrived, I realized that the yard was a complete disaster. Overgrown grass and miscellaneous toys scattered about. One of those inexpensive plastic slides tipped over in the dirt. I had to step over a rusted bike and a deflated pool toy just to get to the front door. When I finally knocked, I was anticipating a grin, a thank you, a hug, and some acknowledgement that I had flown 3,000 miles to see them. Nope. My father opened the door, looked at me for about 2 seconds and smacked me with, "You're going to babysit Lena's kids. We're going on a family vacation." No embrace, not even a greeting. I stood there, drenched on the welcome mat, attempting to understand what he had just spoken. Family trip. Not including myself. Just, what? Then Lena appeared behind him, lugging a duffel bag, and looked far too eager. Her 2 children were already dressed in their coats, tracking dirt all over the foyer. She smirked and instructed the children, "Don't snot on your uncle." They all began laughing. Even my mother joined in from the kitchen as if this were a fantastic occasion. The doorway smelt like a wet dog, despite the fact that they don't have one. And there was garbage everywhere. Toys, shoes, and mail were heaped up on the same table they'd had since I was in high school. But the kids were bouncing around, definitely high on sugar. My niece had chocolate on her cheek and was clutching a toy unicorn missing an eye. My nephew was wearing mismatched rain boots and started hopping in place, throwing mud down my already drenched jeans. Mom entered from the kitchen with a travel mug, explaining that they were heading to a resort in Bend for the week. "Beautiful place in the mountains. They have a spa and everything," she was saying. "And you'll have the house to yourself," Lena said, as if it were a perk. "Just need you to watch the kids, they're on winter break from school." My father was already piling suitcases into their SUV, which I helped them purchase last year when their old car died. The one I believe I was still making payments on. It felt weird, like I was seeing a movie about my own life. I just spent over $1,000 on a last-minute airfare and took time off work during our busiest season, all because they coerced me into returning home for Christmas and they were leaving. I stood there with my luggage still in hand as they continued to stuff the car. Like I should be glad for the chance to babysit for a week while they went on a stinking vacation. My mother must have seen my look because she hesitated and said, "Oh, there's plenty of food in the fridge, and the kids' schedules are on the whiteboard in the kitchen." That's when it struck me. This was not a last-minute strategy. This had been the idea all along. They never wanted me home for Christmas. They wanted a free babysitter so they could go out and have fun. I did not yell. I did not have to. I basically laid out what I had done for them. I paid every single charge. I always covered Lena's credit card bill. Every lie I told my landlord when I had to break my lease early because they required money for essential home repairs, which turned out to be a new TV. So let me get this straight, I muttered. You called me, asked me to come home for the holidays, made me book an expensive last-minute flight, and now you're all going on vacation while I babysit. My father halted. It's just for a week. We never get to do anything nice for ourselves. Never get to? I couldn't complete the phrase. The audacity was amazing. I took out my phone and opened the banking app. Let's talk about that. Last month I sent you $1,650 for the mortgage, $420 for utilities, $375 for Lena's car payment, $300 for the kids' activities, $210 for everyone's phone bills, and about $400 for food delivery. That's over $3,000. And that doesn't include the extra $500 Lena asked for when her car needed repairs. Their faces transformed. My mother gazed at the floor. Lena became quite interested in zipping and unzipping her jacket. My father's expression darkened. We're family, he added, as if that clarified everything. Family helps family. Funny how that only goes one way, I said. They assumed I was simply moaning and venting, like I normally do. I figured I'd complain, suck it up and play house for a week while they got massages in Bend. So I gave them the first card. I quit my job last week. That's when Lena screamed like if I had confessed to murder. My father lost it so quickly that he knocked over the coat rack. My mother held her hands in the air, as if she could reverse the last 5 years with a single gesture. You what? My father exclaimed. How could you be so irresponsible? What about our bills? Your bills, I corrected him. Not mine. And I didn't just quit. I took a new job. Better company, better pay. But there's a catch. I have to be in the office. No more remote work options. I let it sink in. No more remote employment meant no more last-minute trips. No more being at their beck and call. So, what are you saying? Lena inquired, her voice suddenly soft. I'm saying I'm done being your wallet. The new job barely covers my expenses, especially with the cost of living in Miami. There's nothing left to send your way. When I told them I wouldn't be staying to monitor the kids, it didn't register straight away. They simply stood there, blinking, waiting for me to swear I was joking. I was not. You guys go ahead to your resort, I added, taking out my phone again. I'll be staying at a hotel downtown. But the kids, Lena said. Your responsibility, I concluded for her. Not mine. My father approached me, pointing his finger at my chest. Now listen here. No, you listen, I interrupted him. For once in your life, just listen. Then I dropped the next bomb. I informed them that the resort reservation was no longer available. Canceled 3 days ago and received a full refund on my credit card. The surprise I'd paid for as a gift a few months ago when Dad suggested wanting to go away. He had not noticed because he had ceased opening his own statements years before. My name appeared on all accounts. I'd set them up that way to assist them rebuild their credit following the foreclosure panic. Lena laughed at first, as if I were lying. Then she opened the resort's app on her phone. Her face became pale as the confirmation faded before her eyes. My mother looked over her shoulder, blinked a few times, and then began asking questions that nobody could answer. Lena muttered. How is this possible? Same way I've been paying your bills for years, I explained. With my money, my accounts, my credit cards that you all seem to think have unlimited funds. Then came the airline portion. I informed them that the flights had been redirected. No refunds. That would have been too easy. I had the credit moved to my own name through an account I'd formed months before, anticipating this very occasion. You can't do that, my father exclaimed. That's our vacation. No, I corrected him once again. I paid for this trip, so it's mine. I decided to cancel it. My father exclaimed, This is fraud. I reminded him that it wasn't fraud if the card was in my name. All those improvements and bills he hadn't paid in a year, the entire house, food, Lena's car payment, it all went through me. He merely wrote his name and accepted the credit. But the highlight was what I put on the table next. A folded letter from Chase Bank, a polite reminder that I had ceased making automated mortgage payments 3 weeks ago. I wanted to see how long it would take them to notice. They did not. The kitchen smelt like burnt coffee, and their faces looked like they'd just seen their winning lottery ticket shredded. I'm not going to lie, it felt amazing. Years of being treated like an open wallet, and now I was finally closing it. "You can't do this to us," my mother pleaded with tears in her eyes. "We're your family." "Family doesn't treat each other like this," was my response. "Family doesn't lie and manipulate to get what they want." "It wasn't a lie," Lena protested softly. "We did want you here for Christmas." "As a babysitter," I told her, "not as a brother or son." My father was pacing now, running his hands through his thinning hair. "So, are you just going to let the bank take our house? Let's end up on the street? Is this what you want?" "What I want," I replied carefully, making sure every word was heard, "is for you all to accept responsibility for your own lives. Get a job, pay your own bills. Stop treating me like an infinite resource that you can use whenever you want." The living room was silent, save for the kids, who had gone on to fighting over a toy in the corner. My nephew began crying, but no one attempted to soothe him. They were all too horrified by what was going on. "I've been preparing this for months," I added, "and I have spreadsheets that document every dime I've given you over the last 5 years. It's more than $175,000. Do you get that? I could have purchased my own home, started a family, and invested in my future. Instead, I've been investing in yours, and you can't even be bothered to thank me when I walk in the door." Lena's phone rang. She glanced at it and became even more concerned. "The hotel has just sent a cancellation confirmation," she murmured. "Yep," I said. "I called them this morning." The doorbell rang while Lena was pacing in circles, attempting to phone the resort. Everyone froze. No one was expecting visitors but me, and I had planned this to the hour. I assured them not to worry, it wasn't the bank yet. My father opened the door and strode a tall woman in her 40s with a clipboard and a badge around her neck, introducing herself as Karen from Child Protective Services. Lena's face became absolutely white. "You see, I called CPS 3 weeks ago and told them what I saw during our last video call. The kids left alone in the backyard without coats, one crying while Lena smoked on the porch, scrolling through her phone. I had screenshots, dates, and times, including the time my nephew fell and got a bloody nose while Lena was inside taking a nap, and the time my niece had what appeared to be cigarette burns on her stuffed animals. CPS had started a silent case and was currently making a home visit. I gave Karen a pleasant smile and told her I was the uncle in town for the holidays, offering to show her the kitchen, refrigerator and nursery, while Lena stood there transfixed, clutching her useless plane tickets. "We've received some concerning reports," Karen continued, her voice professional yet friendly. "I'm just here to check in and see how everyone's doing." "We're fine," my father answered quickly, attempting to hide her view of the living room. "Just having a family discussion." "I can see that," she said, staring at the baggage beside the door. "Were you going somewhere?" "Vacation," my mother swiftly said. "But we're reconsidering." Karen nodded and asked if she may come in and look around. My father hesitated, but she reminded him that she could return with a court order if necessary, so he stood aside. The house conveyed the full story. The kitchen sink was stacked high with dishes, empty energy drink cans sat on the counter, and peanut butter was smeared on the wall near the dining table. When Karen asked to see where the kids slept, I stepped aside and let her see for herself. The kids' room was worse than I remembered from my last visit, with clothes everywhere and sheets that had clearly not been washed in weeks. A sippy cup that used to be milk was now growing something fuzzy and green. The bathroom had black mildew in the shower's corners, and the medicine cabinet was open, leaving prescription bottles easily accessible to young hands. I spotted something I hadn't noticed before: a duct-taped breach in the window that let chilly air in. It's no surprise my niece coughed during our last video conference. The room was chilling. Lena abruptly flipped the switch to the concerned mother, claiming she hadn't had time to clean because they were packing, that she always gave specific instructions and would never go on vacation without ensuring her children's safety, and that we had agreed to everything months before. I didn't react, just stared at Karen, who inquired whether I had any messages or texts from Lena confirming my availability to watch the kids. I took out my phone and handed it to her. Lena's most recent message was from 2 days ago. "Can you pick up some shampoo from Miami, the kind you bought me last time?" There was no mention of babysitting. It was just another demand, as usual. I caught my father's eye across the room, and for the first time in my life, I saw something new. He was watching his house of cards collapse in real time, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. He was terrified, not angry or disappointed. Karen took notes on her notepad and asked a few more questions regarding the children's routines, medical treatment, and school attendance. Lena stuttered through her responses, contradicting herself several times. My parents tried to intervene and cover for her, but it only made matters worse. "So you're saying you oversee the kids when your daughter isn't available?" Karen questioned my mother. "Yes, of course," my mother responded. "But were you going to leave them with their uncle for a week while you all went on vacation?" My mother faltered. "Well, he is. He's very responsible." "I see," Karen remarked, writing something down. "And Mr. Stevens," she asked my father, "are you currently employed?" His face lost its color. "I have some back problems that make it difficult to work." "Are you on disability then?" she pressed. We're working on the paperwork," he claimed. Karen jotted another note. "And who is the principal financial supporter for this household?" Everyone looked at me, and I just shrugged. "I've been helping out," I added, deliberately ambiguous. "But I recently changed jobs, so that's coming to an end." The rest of the inspection went about as well as you'd expect. Karen checked the fridge, which was nearly empty except for condiments and some expired yogurt. She inquired about smoke detectors, one of which was chirping due to a low battery. And she observed the children, who were clearly unaccustomed to regular routines and discipline. My mother was sitting on the couch with her head in her hands, and my father was resting against the wall with his arms crossed. By the end, Lena was in tears, not the manipulative ones she typically used to get her way, but genuine fearful sobs. Karen gave them a checklist of what needed to be done and said she'd be back in 48 hours for a follow-up. She mentioned some resources for parenting classes and career assistance programs, and then went, but not before giving me her card and asking me to phone if I had any further problems. After she departed, I picked up my suitcase and no one stopped me or asked me to stay. I told my father I'd stay at their house for 2 nights until I could move into my new apartment, just as any other person would. He stared at me as if I'd personally attacked him and said no, saying I wasn't welcome anymore and had humiliated them. "And if you think you're better than us, you can prove it from somewhere else. After everything you've done," he snarled, his voice quivering with wrath. "You think you can just stay here, under my roof?" I almost chuckled at the irony, his roof, which I'd been paying for. I looked at my mother. She didn't say anything, and Lena was still hiding with the kids. It was exactly what I expected. They'd exploited me for as long as they could, and now that I wasn't playing along, I was disposable. So I nodded, didn't fight, simply picked up my barely unzipped luggage and went out. No spectacular exit, no big speech, just a guy leaving a house that never truly belonged to him. Then I drove to my new place, which they had no idea existed. A 1-bedroom downtown condo on the 12th floor, with a view of the city I had grown up in but never truly enjoyed. It was clean, minimal, and fully paid for. I had been discreetly arranging this relocation for almost a year, while still transferring the money. 6 months ago, I made a decision. Instead of providing them more money whenever they asked for it, I started putting it aside in a different account that they had no idea about. I began establishing a safety net for myself, not for them. I found a real estate agent who helped me identify a foreclosure that I could get for a deal, and I used every penny I had saved to buy it outright, with no mortgage, loan, or monthly payment. The place still smelled of fresh paint, the floors were cold, the fridge was empty, and there were no sheets on the bed, but it was mine. No one else had the keys. I put my bag in the closet and stood there for a moment, hearing nothing. No TV, no kids shouting, and no one asking for a favor, a loan, or just a little assistance till payday. For the first time in years, I was solely accountable for myself. I was standing at the floor-to-ceiling windows, looking out at the city lights, when I felt a strange sensation in my chest. It took me a minute to understand it was relief, pure and unfiltered. The following day I went shopping and bought food, sheets, towels, a quality coffee maker, and everything else you need when you're starting over. I spent the afternoon setting up my house, arranging furniture, hanging a few photos, and making it seem like home. Since I'd left, my phone had been inundated with texts and calls, the majority of which followed the same pattern. Rage, threats, guilt, and bargaining, all classic manipulation tactics. From Dad: "You have destroyed this family, I hope you are happy." From Mom: "Please call us, we need to figure this out." From Lena: "The children are crying because they don't understand why Uncle departed." The last one almost got me. But then I remembered how easily they were willing to dump those same kids on me while they were on vacation, and how those tears were being used against me again. I kept my phone on Do Not Disturb and concentrated on establishing my new life. The next morning I received a text from Lena asking if she could come over alone and apologize. And for some reason, I responded, sure. Maybe it was because she was the only one who appeared to be capable of changing, or maybe I just needed closure. I gave her the address but told her she just had 1 hour, not a minute more. When she arrived, she appeared smaller, with her hair in a loose bun, little makeup, and no phone in her hand. She entered the apartment and began looking about. "This is really nice," she said. I didn't thank her. Instead, I motioned to the couch and asked if she wanted coffee. She nodded, and I noticed her hands were shaking. "How long have you owned this place?" she inquired as I handed her a drink. "Closed on it 3 months ago, I told you. Been setting it up little by little." "So you never mentioned anything? Would it have mattered? Would you have been pleased for me, or would you have found a way to utilize it for yourself?" She did not respond, but stared into her coffee. She apologized for everything, planning to dump the kids on me, acting as if I wasn't doing enough, texting, asking for money like it was nothing, and even laughing when I walked in the door. "We became used to you repairing everything," she said. "Mom and Dad were expecting it. I expected it. It seemed natural. Until you stopped playing along." I told her that while I appreciated it, I couldn't pretend it hadn't happened, and that apologizing wouldn't help unless she changed. "I know," she admitted gently. "That's why I applied for a job yesterday." It astonished me. "What type of job?" "There's nothing fancy, receptionist in a dental office, but it is something. They told me I could start next week if my references checked up." "That's good," I answered sincerely. "How about the kids?" "Mom will watch them throughout my shifts. Dad is looking into some handyman labor. Nothing is permanent, but it's a start." I nodded, trying not to get my hopes up. They had made promises before. Before she departed, she mentioned that she and the kids were residing at a Motel 6. She was thinking about obtaining her own apartment once she had more paychecks under her belt, and she seemed serious. I encouraged her because it would be beneficial for the children to have their own place. She paused at the threshold. "CPS is coming back tomorrow. Karen stated that we needed to clean the house, acquire groceries, and repair the smoke detector. I don't suppose." I shake my head. "No more bailouts, Lena. You all need to sort this out for yourselves." She nodded in disappointment, but not surprise. "Worth a shot," she murmured with a sorrowful smile, before leaving and quietly closing the door behind her. That night, I received a voicemail from my father from an unknown phone. "If you believe this is over, you are dumber than I imagined. You want to disgrace this family? You'll see how it feels." But I was already in front of him. The next morning, I went to the mortgage lender and legally removed my name from everything linked with the house. I didn't want it repossessed. I wanted them to own everything. The late payments, the growing interest, the collection phone calls. I entered into my bank account and canceled 3 planned transfers: groceries, phone plan, and Lena's auto insurance, all in 2 clicks. It felt like severing the last threads of a puppet I had been dancing for years. I forwarded my father's threatening message to a legal friend who encouraged me to document everything in case things escalated. I changed the passwords on all of my accounts, set up credit monitoring to ensure no one could open anything in my name, and blocked his phone number. For the next week, the texts kept flowing, alternating between wrath and desperation. My mother emailed a snapshot of an empty fridge with the comment, "Please." My father had a friend phone me and say I was killing them slowly by cutting them off. Lena supplied images of earlier discussions in which I vowed to always be there for the kids. What they didn't realize was that 3 months prior, I had secretly filed a report with a government housing program detailing how my money was subsidizing their lives while the children were mistreated. And yesterday, while they were still squabbling about who should call me first, they received a formal evaluation of their eligibility for child support programs, housing assistance, and disability benefits, in the form of a letter that began, "We regret to inform you," and ended, "Subject to investigation." Lena texted me at 10:23 p.m., with just one word. Why? I ignored her since they had brought me across the nation to babysit their mess, and all I did was return it to them, one piece at a time. Meanwhile, I was settling into my new life, getting the internet set up, buying a decent TV, starting to prepare genuine meals rather than just grabbing whatever was easiest after a hard day of work, and even joining a nearby gym. It turns out that when you're not always worried about where your next financial emergency will come from, you have more energy for things like self-care. My supervisor called to check in, shocked that I was taking the entire week off. "Is everything well with the family?" he asked. I assured him things had changed, but I was fine. Better than good, honestly. I spent Christmas Day alone, watching movies, ordering Chinese cuisine, and video calling 2 college pals I hadn't spoken to in a long time. I didn't have to pretend everything was good, or arbitrate any arguments. Just peace. It's been a month, and life is quieter. My apartment feels lived in, my belongings are where I want them, and I wake up without that knot of anxiety in my chest when I see certain names on my phone. Last week I received a letter with no return address, only my name and my mother's handwriting. Inside came a check for $750 and a note that said, "We're doing all we can." I haven't paid it yet. I'm waiting to see if the effort is genuine, or if it's simply fleeting remorse. Lena honored her promise. Surprisingly, she is now working full-time at that dentist's office. She shared a photo of her kids smiling in a real living room, with a rug, a couch, and coloring books spread out. There is no mess, no anxiety behind their eyes like before, and she is renting a little 2-bedroom in a different part of town. My parents are still at home, but they are both working part-time. Dad is doing maintenance at an apartment complex, which turns out isn't so awful for his back when it's the only alternative. Mom cleans houses. We don't chat directly, just send short notes, and that's all I want for now. I'm not ready for anything else. Maybe eventually, but not now. As for my father, nothing. Not a text, not a murmur. People like him don't apologize. They wait for the world to bend back to them. I don't bend anymore. I obtained a raise at work, started going to the gym 4 times a week, and discovered that instead of pouring your life savings into someone else's never-ending pit of needs, you can actually build something for yourself. I ran into Karen from CPS at a downtown coffee shop yesterday. She recognized me and asked how I was doing. I told her things were much better, and she smiled and said she was glad to hear it. She said the family was also making progress, and the follow-up visits showed real improvement. The house was clean, the kids were in a routine, and there was actual food in the refrigerator. "Your sister mentions you sometimes," she stated. "I think she misses you." Maybe that's true. And maybe I miss some of them as well. The possibility of what we could have been as a family if money and manipulation hadn't ruined everything. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I had just played along that day, if I had kept an eye on those kids and let them go on vacation. Then I tell myself that it would not have been just that day, but every day, forever. Thank you for the prizes and support. Here are some typical questions. 1. The children are safe. CPS is still watching the situation, but it is improving. 2. I haven't spoken to my father since that day and don't intend to. 3. Yeah, I kept all of the gifts I got. Hey Reddit, it's been 3 months since I walked out of my parents' house and urged them to start fending for themselves. Remember my father's threats after that? It turns out the dude wasn't lying. 2 weeks ago my bank's fraud department contacted someone who attempted to send $12,000 to an offshore account using my identity, which they stopped. But when I checked my credit report, I saw 6 hard inquiries from loan applications I had never completed. Someone was trying to incur big debt in my name. That was simply a warm-up. Next, this guy created a Gmail account with my complete identity and began contacting my clients, claiming I was stealing company data and selling it to competitors. Before I knew what was going on, 3 clients contacted my company, and I was hauled into an emergency legal call. Fortunately, my boss had my back, but I still spent 48 hours performing damage control. That's when I stopped reacting and began handling the situation. We hired a lawyer and spent 2 days tracing everything back to my father. The moron used his own equipment and even placed his personal email address as recovery for the bogus accounts. Pure boomer evil. And that was it. I filed charges for identity theft, fraud, and slander. Yesterday, cops arrived at my parents' house with a warrant and seized every electronic gadget. He is now facing potential jail time. Mom has been blowing up my phone, urging me to lower the charges. Lena, surprise, just said, "Do what you need to do." And that was it. I believe she has now realized how far off the rails the old man has gone. I'm not dropping anything. He attempted to ruin my credit and get me fired because I quit being his safety net. The court date is next month, and the lawyer claims the case is a slam dunk. I've also frozen my credit, switched banks, and placed security cameras at my home, not taking any chances. My laughter at my sister's tragedy. Baby name got me uninvited. Sparked a family intervention, and saved my niece. Original post: my sister is due in early January and we're planning her baby shower for early December. She decided she wanted to use my mother's maiden name, Rafferty, as her daughter's name. Not a tragedy itself, and I guess it works as a unique name. But yesterday I texted my sister that I needed to get the custom items with my niece's name ordered ASAP so they would arrive in time for the shower. My sister then let me know they're going with an alternative spelling of Rafferty. I texted back, an alternative spelling? Of our mother's maiden name? My sister wants to spell it Rayfarty. So I sent back a bunch of laughing emojis and she asked, "What's so funny?" I tried to explain that no one will pronounce that as Rafferty and she'll probably get plenty of the same mispronunciations. She told me I was being ridiculous. I texted back, "My poor niece, little Miss Farty Ray?" I was uninvited to the shower and my mom told me today my sister doesn't want me as the godmother anymore. But, Rayfarty is really bad, isn't it? Someone needs to tell her, right? Some of OOP's comments Josh, top comments, Barge G. Yup, it's Rayfarty, no matter what sis wants to believe. Oop. Thank you. Balloon Ship, Rayfarty. MGM, expected release 2025. A hard-boiled detective living and working in the heart of Pittsburgh's Sulphur District is tasked with investigating the theft of 12,000 durians. In an unexpected twist, the alleged mastermind of the crime, the CEO of Chipotle, was also Ray's high school chemistry teacher. Oop. OMG. I needed this? Estamos ready. That's terrible, she is going to hate her name. Out of curiosity, how old is your sister? Oop. My sister is 26. We both have fairly plain names and my sister was always jealous of people with more exotic names. She told my mom that spelling it Rayfarty will be obvious that it's pronounced Rafferty, but it makes it look more girly. I mean, yeah, girls fart too. Happy Big 3297, Rafferty comes under the category of names I wouldn't use. Not a big fan of surnames as first names, but which I can see tick some boxes that would make them appealing to some people. Honors your mom, sounds gender neutral, could use the nickname Raf. Rayfarty comes under the category of names that sound like jokes. No wonder you laughed. Do what you can to dissuade her. Everyone's going to pronounce it as Farty. Oop, I agree. I wouldn't use it myself, but I get that it honors my mom and her family and it's not too out there. Thank God my mother wasn't born a Lewandowski. No offense to the Lewandowskis out there. My mom is mildly annoyed. She wants to honor her last name but totally respell it. But my mother's opinion is that it's my sister's child and no one but she and her husband really have a say in the name. Apparently my sister insists everyone will understand it as Rafferty and not Rayfarty, SMDH. What about BIL? I texted him last night to ask if he knew about the colorful respelling. Surprise, surprise, he hates it and immediately thinks Rayfarty, too. But he doesn't know how to approach it because my sister's pregnancy has been increasingly emotional and he's already walking on eggshells. Update post. I don't know if updates are allowed here, but here it is and sorry it's long and I've been having a hard time submitting it. Is there a character limit? I'll try posting some and put the rest in the comments. So we had an intervention on Rayfarty. I know everyone said to send a link to the original post to my sister to show her that 103% of the global population would call her daughter Rayfarty and that would be the easiest thing to do, but some commenters said some pretty gnarly things about my sister that she doesn't need to read and feel worse about herself. But I wanted to address a few things that came up. First, for those saying I shouldn't bother paying for the baby shower anymore, I had no plans to not continue to pay and help out. Disagreements and fighting aside, I love my sister and want her to go into motherhood filled with love and support, regardless of whether she wants my support or attendance at the event. Second, my sister's husband was made aware of the spelling change of Rafferty to Rayfarty about a month before my original post. He said he didn't think much of it until he saw it written down and immediately saw it as Rayfarty, too. He said her emotions had been getting worse throughout the pregnancy, and he didn't know how to approach her about going back to the original spelling. He had hoped that once she gave birth, all the hormones would somehow leave her body, she'd come to her senses, and it would be a non-issue. Third, a lot of you were lumping my mom in with my sister and said some pretty horrible things about her too. All my mom knew was from my sister calling her to complain that I laughed at her for slightly changing the spelling. My mom just assumed it was a minor change like Rafferty until I told her to grab a pen and paper and I'd spell it out for her. Once she saw it was Rayfarty, she was team save this child. The rest of the saga is in the comments. Continued. The rest. Now for those of you who told me I didn't have any tact and my reaction was mean, my reaction was because 1. People would call the poor girl Rayfarty her entire life for the sake of my sister being quirky. 2. Pregnancy brain aside, surely my sister would realize her child will be called Rayfarty once it's pointed out, have a laugh, change her mind, and this will end up being a funny story to tell at her daughter's future wedding or something. And 3. My sister is a bit of a joker, so I also initially thought she was just pulling a prank or joking. But if she was joking, she took the joke really, really far. She spent $400 on a mural painted on one wall in the nursery. She wanted to debut the finished nursery to everyone at the baby shower, including her husband, who was forbidden to see it beforehand, that had Ray Farty incorporated into it that now needs to be repainted. She also bought herself a birthing gift? Is this even a thing? She'd have my brother-in-law present to her in front of everyone at the hospital. A 900+ gold bracelet with R, A, E, F, A, R, T, and Y charms. The baby book also has Ray Farty embroidered on the cover. I contacted my sister's best friend Katie, not her real name, if my sister has told her anything about the spelling change. She found out about Ray Farty after the blow-up with my sister, as my sister wanted to get Katie on her side. Katie, who's a teacher, was equally horrified about the spelling and told me this is the worst attempt at a creative name she's ever seen. The intervention of sorts, the Farty Party, if you will, included me, my sister, her husband, his mother and father, my mother and Katie. My sister refused to believe anyone could possibly see Ray Farty as Ray Farty, and that we were just mad that she was taking creative license and that everyone does that nowadays. My sister said children are not that cruel to bully her daughter for her name, and Katie said plenty of kids are cruel enough and the others would join in so they're not singled out themselves. My sister countered that as long as all the adults are pronouncing it correctly that it'll be no problem, and Katie told her that not only would the adults not know how to pronounce it to begin with, but that as long as fart is in the name, kids will latch right onto that. I was happy Katie was there because she's shared interesting names her students have had over the past few years, so I knew her opinion on this would probably be the only one to sway her. My sister cried for about 10 minutes and finally agreed to entirely change the name because even Rafferty was tainted because we had all ruined it for her. We told her to take her time to consider a new name. She told us she still wanted to honor my mother, and she suggested she'd combine my mother's first name with her mother-in-law's name and created a name on the spot that included a crass term for a lesbian. When my mother pointed that out, she started crying again and accused us of not letting her be a mom, and her husband suggested we leave it for now and we should all go and give her space. It's been radio silence until my sister texted me a couple of hours ago that she and her husband landed on Theodora and she is absolutely in love with it. She even decided by my unborn niece looks like a Theodora in the ultrasounds. She got those creepy 3D ones done where every baby looks like the same copper potato. I replied that that was lovely and that I'm so happy she's happy. It's not my taste, but at least it's not Theodora or some crap like that. So there you go. My niece has been saved from being called Ray Farty. I'm invited to the baby shower again, and I know this is just a little blip with my relationship to my sister and we'll be fine, but Katie will be taking over as godmother, which is fine by me. I can always be godmother to their next child, who will probably be named something like Tiramisu. Thank you all for seeing the same thing I did and letting me know stopping Ray Farty from coming into existence was the right thing to do. Some of Ope's comments. Commenter. She also bought herself a birthing gift. Is this even a thing? She'd have my brother-in-law present to her in front of everyone at the hospital. What the actual fuck? Silly name aside, what is this? Some kind of social media fueled, look at me and how wonderful I am to get a gift as a reward for giving birth. This feels very tacky to me. The whole push present concept gives me the ick. Oop. I agree. I've never heard of this before and it seems crazy. But also, if I ever ruin my body and push out a watermelon, I'd kinda want a reward too, though. Commenter. Pretty please tell us the amalgamation of her mother and MIL's names. Ope. There's probably no anonymity left on this situation, so here it goes. My mom is Leslie. Sister's MIL is Yvonne. The name was Les Yvonne. Pronounced Les Yvonne, like my niece is the lesbian baroness of some German village. I'll have the staff prepare the Birkenstocks for Les Yvonne Fartenberg's arrival. New update post. Title, Ray Farty has made it to the party. I don't know if you remember my post from a few weeks back about my sister wanting to name my niece Rafferty, pronounced Rafferty and not at all like Ray Farty. My niece has been born 2 weeks earlier than expected, but she is healthy and home now. When my sister first held her, she said, "She's so adorable," and got an idea. She wanted to change from Theodora to Theodorable. Thankfully my BIL put his foot down. He did give her carte blanche on the middle name. When it was supposed to be Rafferty, they went with Rose to counterbalance Rafferty being different. Now that Theodora was the normal name, and because my sister just cannot not be extra, she chose Jacksonville. Theodora Jacksonville. A Ray Farty Rose by any other name would smell as sweet. We are not from Florida. BIL is not from Florida. I don't think my sister's ever been to Florida, much less to Jacksonville. I asked her how she came up with it and she said she always liked geographical names, Which is news to me because I specifically remember a conversation about names months ago and she said she hated when parents name their kids place names like Camden or Brooklyn because they're trying way too hard. But you do you, Rayfarty's mom. Also, our city has a pretty sizable Polish-American population and people will certainly try to pronounce it like it's a Polish last name, but at least the craziness is confined to the middle name. And there's no gas or slurs involved. Some of OOP's comments, that person you don't know, thanks for the update on Rayfarty. At least it's a middle name, and thank goodness Bill stopped the other craziness. Oh, props to my BIL this time around. He said the look on the nurse's face when my sister suggested the adorable was all he needed. LOL, capable box. 8785. The entire internet remembers Rayfarty. Your sister is a legend but that middle name though, a full-on tragedy. Oop. When we heard the name, my mother warned me, let's not go through this again, it's just the middle name. So I behaved myself. Broadway Girl 27, does your sister understand the legacy she has created? Oh, a few people know about the post, but I don't think she does, or is too embarrassed to admit she knows. But she's not really on social media much except for Water Talk vids. Editor's note, Water Talk is people sharing recipes for like, flavored water. But sometimes no water is involved or it is a monstrosity posing as water. Curtis Connor did a video on it if you want to find out more, but regardless, it's certainly a more niche community. Miranda 524. It has even made its way to TikTok. OP. Sully she must know by now. Sorry not sorry, I did what I needed to do to save Miss Farty Ray. My niece moved in after her parents kicked her out and tried imposing rules in my house, so I taught her a tough lesson. Kesha is 14 years old and female. She is my husband's sister's daughter. She's become increasingly defiant, to the point where her own parents have kicked her out. She has been suspended from school twice this year and is on her way to being expelled. She was suspended twice for starting fights with other girls. She has a fiery temper for an 8th grader. Of course, her parents were outraged when she was sent home from school. But when they sat her down to discuss it, she ended up hitting her mother. Her father dragged her away and kicked her out. He informed her that she was not welcome to stay there until she got her act together, and that was the end of it. I believe Kesha spent the night at a friend's house before arriving on our doorstep the next day. My husband and I both work from home, so we were present when she arrived. We were initially perplexed because we had heard nothing about her suspension or the altercation with her parents. But, of course, we allowed her in, because she is family. She explained that the day before, her parents had kicked her out for no apparent reason. She said her mother had become physical with her and she was afraid, so she came to us. Even as she said all of this, we were doubtful. We knew Kesha had been on a cruel streak recently, so my husband snuck away to contact his sister and get the whole story. Of course, his sister gave him the entire truth. She claimed it broke their hearts to do it, but they didn't feel secure having her in the house anymore, so they kicked her out. My brother-in-law went on to say that he was tired of allowing her get away with her behavior. If she was going to learn, she needed to do it the hard way. My spouse has always had a sweet place for his niece. He couldn't help but invite her to stay with us temporarily. We don't have any children yet, so we have plenty of room for her to stay. I was concerned about the concept because I had no prior experience with children, let alone aggressive ones. But I decided that it was better for her to stay with us rather than with a random acquaintance until things between her and her parents calmed down. The first night went good. She was on her best behavior, and we had a lovely supper together. My husband and I had hoped her entire stay with us would be like this. We believed she could just need a pause to think things through, and that this would be beneficial to her. Unfortunately, the peace did not endure very long. We awoke the next day and resumed our normal activities. We took baths, played music in the kitchen while preparing breakfast, and arrived at our home office by 8 a.m. To begin our day. Kesha didn't leave the guest room until around 11:30. We heard her moving around in the kitchen and went out to see if she wanted to join us for lunch. We could tell just by looking at her that this was not the case. As we went into the room, she appeared tough and gave us a death stare. I asked her how she slept, and she sarcastically replied, "Like crap." My husband raged at her, telling her she couldn't talk to me like that. She lashed back, stating she could be in a better mood if I wasn't so loud in the mornings. Apparently, she heard me singing in the shower and claimed I woke her up. She asked if we could keep it quiet in the mornings from now on. We were stunned. I'd never had a guest speak to me like this before, especially a child. She then retreated to her room for several hours. We needed to get back to work, but we were both concerned about how the remainder of the day would unfold. Around 7 p.m., Kesha emerged from her room. I had saved her a plate for dinner, so we figured she would come out and eat. Instead, she threw a piece of paper down on the counter and began walking towards the front door. My husband asked where she was going, and she answered, "Out with friends." He warned her she couldn't go out alone right now, especially at night, with no idea where she was going or who she'd be with. I intervened and asked her what the piece of paper she had laid down was about. The list was handwritten. I grabbed it up and read it aloud. Kesha's house rules. No music or singing before noon. No disgusting food for dinner, also known as veggies. No boring television shows. Avoid asking foolish questions. Please do not enter my room. My husband laughed at the list, but Kesha's expression was dead serious. She truly expected us to obey her crazy regulations in our own home. I had had enough with this bullshit. I went to the door, grabbed my coat and keys, and instructed her to get into my car. She was perplexed, but my tone made it clear that I was not joking. She left for the car, and I assured my husband we'd be back in a minute. We traveled in quiet for around 15 minutes. I was furious, and I could tell she was too. After a while, Kesha realized she didn't know this part of town. She hesitated before asking where we were headed. I informed her that if she didn't want to stay with her parents or with us, I'd show her where she would end up. We were approaching downtown, and the look on Kesha's face told me she had never been to this section of town before. Every street corner was crowded with homeless people, all of whom appeared dirty and high. There were tents and trash everywhere. When we came to a stoplight, people approached the windows and began banging, asking for money. Some of them were outraged, and one man even kicked the car as we drove away. I could see Kesha was afraid, but neither of us said anything. Then I pulled into a parking area and turned off the car, ensuring the doors were locked. We had parked in front of a homeless shelter. People lined up outside the entrance, hoping to acquire a hot supper, blankets, or, if they were lucky, a roof over their heads for the night. Some of the guys were yelling and arguing with one another, but the majority of the women simply looked sorrowful. It was dreadful, and even I was afraid to be there. Finally, Kesha asked if we could leave. I informed her that if she wanted to come back to our house, she had to follow the rules. I also informed her that if she wanted to stay with us, she needed to call her mother and apologize, as her parents simply wanted the best for her. She nodded, and I knew I had communicated effectively. I don't believe anyone in her life had ever put her in her place like that. But, I believe, at that moment, a part of her knew it was precisely what she needed. When we came home, my spouse seemed anxious. Of course, he was intrigued about where I had taken her and what we had discussed, but I gave him a look that indicated I would tell him later. We all went into the kitchen, and I took out the plate of leftovers we had set aside for Kesha earlier. I heated it for her, and we sat down at the table together. My husband and I were startled that Kesha spoke out first. She inquired about what we both did for work. My husband was taken aback, but pleased to respond. After that, we talked about our careers, local colleges, and various extracurricular activities she may participate in. It was actually a wonderful evening. I may have been tough with her earlier, but I believe I got through to her. Now I only hope it sticks and she may return to her parents' place soon. Let's see what happens after she apologizes to her mother. The day after we visited the homeless shelter, Kesha called her mother. She asked if I would sit with her while they talked, and I of course agreed. She truly made an outstanding apology to her mother. By the end, she was in tears but smiling since her mother had accepted her apologies and invited her home. She startled me by asking if she could stay with us for a little longer. Her mother consented, so we decided she could stay with us until the following Monday, when she had to return to school. We may have had a bumpy start, but I believe this was the finest possible outcome. It's been a couple months since Kesha visited us. Since then, her conduct seemed to have changed completely. She has not received any further school suspensions, detentions, or calls to the office. Her grades have greatly improved, and she even auditioned and was accepted into her school dance squad. Her parents say she hasn't been hanging out with the same pals, and her attitude at home has significantly improved. Overall, I would say her stay at our house was a success for her. I'm extremely proud of her and excited to see what her future holds. God bless you. Thank you for identifying her as a child in need of instruction. You'd be an amazing mother. Great job, Auntie. I hope her parents are half as supportive as you are. My partner is upset with his parents about this, but some of his siblings and parents believe I was the jerk. So, here we are. I'm a 29-year-old female professional boxer who is probably in my final year or two of competitive competition. My guy, a 35-year-old man, is very supportive of my career and a true gem. We live on the opposite coast from his family, and he has had a strained relationship with his father for years, so I have never met them. His parents, on the other hand, have been working hard to make things right over the previous year. When he indicated that we will be in a nearby city for one of my matches, they wanted to have a family supper. I was genuinely pretty excited about it. I don't have a family, and his family is large, so I've always wondered what it was like. We tried to schedule dinner before the match because I always look a mess for a couple of days after a competition, but they had a conflict. So we scheduled it for a few days before flying abroad to give me some healing time. I wasn't seriously injured, but face bruises and cuts are impossible to hide. My partner had already informed his parents about what to expect, but I don't think they took it seriously. When we arrive, his mother is visibly uncomfortable, while his father simply stares at me. Some of his siblings and their families were present, and I was swamped by the nieces and nephews, who all had a million questions. That's where I could have made a mistake. I informed them about boxing and showed them a video of a portion of my battle on my phone to help them understand why I appeared to be injured. I told them that I was all right. It clearly impressed a couple of the nieces, as they spent the entire supper asking me questions and being amazed that girls could accomplish things like that. His father often attempted to redirect the conversation, which irritated him. He then remarked that it was excellent that I was thinking about retiring and starting a real life soon, indicating that I would have enough time to put together a household and have a family with my boyfriend. I told him that at most, I might become a trainer, and that I already had the life I want. His mother commented that it was a shame I was bruising up my nice face. I joked that this was my winner face, and that she should have seen the other woman. Except for the children and one of his sisters, the entire situation seemed strange and uncomfortable. When we arrived home, my boyfriend checked his texts and then called and raged at his parents. I later learned that his mother had told him that I was extremely improper and a negative influence on the children. One of his brothers inquired whether he was going to bring Barbarian Barbie back for Christmas because his children were so excited. However, his cool sister informed him that their daughter had already asked when Aunt OP will return. It's actually caused a big problem between my boyfriend and his parents, and I'm thinking if I should have simply kept the boxing stuff to myself. However, Barbarian Barbie sounds like a fantastic name to me. NTA. Your boyfriend warned the family, but he still decided to move the meal from before to after your disagreement. You have nothing to be ashamed about. I feel horrible for some of those kids though. Having such narrow-minded, oppressive parents and grandparents must be awful. You informed his parents about the natural repercussions of your career. They had plenty of time to discuss it with their children beforehand if they wanted to. Assuming you are correct and they did not take your warning seriously, they still had the option to explain it in a kid-friendly manner throughout the dinner. In the lack of explicit guidance from them, you acted in a natural and reasonable manner. You provided a short and comprehensive explanation of your apparent injuries, including video evidence of where they came from. I'll confess that I was startled and impressed by how you articulated your explanation. Then I realized that, like any other career, you'd undoubtedly had plenty of practice answering basic questions about it. So I'm no longer surprised, but I'm still really impressed. NTA. The amusing part is that the family is completely overreacting. While it's fantastic that girls can be boxers, most girls, and boys, don't want to be. This means that, like many other things that children are enthused about, their enthusiasm for this will decrease. I am a 40-year-old woman, and my cousin, a 36-year-old man, married his 35-year-old wife 5 years ago. During that time, she has been a welcome addition to our family. She's an academic who works as an assistant professor in a major metropolis in the neighboring state. Although she does not commute to university every day, she works from home the majority of the time. My husband, a 42-year-old man, and I paid them an unannounced visit a while back and were surprised to see how disorganized their home was. It wasn't too bad, although the floors should have been vacuumed and there were filthy dishes in the sink. My cousin's wife performs the majority of the cleaning, but since she started her new work, she has had less time for it because she is constantly grading or teaching. My cousin doesn't do much cleaning because his father is quite traditional about gender roles and did not raise him to help his wife clean the house. My cousin's wife has done an excellent job of teaching him to do more around the house, but it has been a lengthy process. When my cousin's wife celebrated her birthday recently, my sister, 45, and I decided to buy her a Roomba to help her keep the house tidy. My cousin had personally apologized to me during my previous visit for the house not being as clean as it should have been, so my sister and I decided that the Roomba would be good for her. Apparently it wasn't. She was angered by the idea that she was a lousy housekeeper and that cleaning was completely her burden, rather than asking our cousin to help her more often. What bothered me the most was that my cousin's wife gave the Roomba to Goodwill. If she didn't want the gift, she could have returned it to me, allowing my sister and I to receive our money back. I don't believe I'm T since she could use some aid. But now my cousin informs me that his wife is still furious and would not attend family events. The holidays are approaching, and if she does not appear, everyone will wonder where she is. My cousin is upset because he will be caught in the middle and obliged to explain her absence politely. Oh, YTA, big time. First and foremost, with seasonal changes, stressful work, and life in general, things must occasionally be put on hold in order to accommodate higher priorities. You paid an impromptu visit and were surprised to find her unprepared for visitors. I might understand anxiety if the house had mounds of items everywhere, making it impossible to move and posing a health risk, but dishes in the sink and unvacuumed, unswept floors are nothing. That's just a normal daily mess. Your cousin's wife also mentioned that she works from home. What do you believe this means? Do you suppose she's just sitting about twiddling her thumbs, waiting for something to do while getting paid? Second, you say your cousin's father taught him traditional gender norms, yet it appears that your parents did the same. Along with questioning why you're so critical, you should also consider what you've internalized and why you believe cleaning should be left to the woman in the home. This is a bizarre case of cognitive dissonance. Finally, I'm grateful she donated it. You deserve to lose money for perpetuating gender stereotypes and claiming that your cousin's wife isn't doing enough. You have no control over what someone does with anything you've gifted them. Honestly, I'm voting for YTA. You went to her house and complained about the degree of housekeeping to her spouse, whom you openly confess does nothing to help around the house, but not about her spouse. She works a tough job while still doing the majority of the housework that her spouse does not do enough of. Yet you believe it is appropriate to give her a vacuum cleaner as a birthday present because her spouse is too manly to help around the house adequately? Why not give it to him on his birthday, as he is the one who is lacking? Also, her husband is an AEH. Why the hell did he explain the present to her in that manner? It was rude. A spa gift card would have been a more appropriate gift for her. She works hard, but is unable to complete all of her responsibilities. Your relative refuses to help with the housekeeping because he believes that traditional gender norms are the norm. Perhaps you should have bought your relative a vacuum and cleaning supplies instead of his wife. It's really insulting to give her something on her birthday unless she has said to you that she wishes she had a Roomba. The gift was unsuitable. My kids sided with their unfaithful mom, took jobs from her new husband, excluded me from their weddings, and cut contact for 8 years. 8 years ago, I, 56 million, discovered that my wife, Marie, 52F, was cheating on me with one of her college acquaintances. When I eventually caught them, they'd been having an affair for about a year. When I found out, I immediately moved out of my house and filed for divorce. We had previously been having problems in our marriage because she didn't think I was making enough money as a high school baseball coach. Despite my best efforts, she continued to moan about everything. We fought constantly, and in my mind, filing for divorce was not a tough option. Our 2 children had already moved out by that point, so I had no reason to stay. Unfortunately, the divorce destroyed my relationship with my children as well. For whatever reason, they resolved to support their mother. Initially, they attempted to persuade me to be kind with her because she had been a stay-at-home mom for a long period. They attempted to tell me that she must have been tired with her monotonous life. In addition, after they had moved out, we began squabbling over everything. Naturally, she was dissatisfied, and I was having financial difficulties. I couldn't understand why my children were trying so hard to persuade me to forgive Marie, especially since I was experiencing the same issues she was. However, I had not gone out of my way to cheat on her. In fact, after every disagreement we had, I would try to make amends and make her feel special in some way. Clearly, none of this meant anything to her. My children were pleading with me to give her another chance, which made me very unhappy. I ended up battling with them about it as well, and for a time, they cut me out of their lives. After the divorce was finalized, I began to feel quite lonely, especially since Marie remarried the man with whom she had been having an affair only 2 months later. I wasn't conversing with my children at the time, but I tried to reach out to them. They did pardon me, but I believe they said it just for the sake of it. I don't believe they truly forgave me at the time because they did not ask me to do any of their milestones for the next few years. Indeed, until earlier this year, I had little contact with my children. The only reason they're trying to get along with me right now is that I created my own business with a couple of my buddies a few years ago, and it only started taking off recently. I'm doing well for myself, and I'm presuming that's why they're here. For context, I had spent a lengthy time as a high school sports coach. Unfortunately, I was extremely underpaid and overworked. I had a buddy who worked at another school, and we were both struggling financially. While trying to figure out our retirement plans, we decided to talk to a few other people and try to open our own institution. That way, we could continue coaching children, which we were very excellent at and had a lot of experience with, while also turning it into a company. That'd be our retirement plan. We teamed up with another business-savvy acquaintance to launch this venture. We didn't expect much at the moment, but we're happy to say that we're doing well for ourselves now. Our facility has grown fairly popular, and we are considering expanding soon. I'm guessing my kids heard about it because they contacted me earlier this year and began attempting to get on my good side. Initially, I was overjoyed that kids were attempting to involve me more in their life. I assumed they'd finally come to their senses. I didn't suspect they had hidden agendas. However, a few days ago, my two children, Gavin and Hannah, paid me a visit. Gavin married 6 years ago, and Hannah married 4 years ago. I was not invited to either wedding because they informed me that their mother would be present with her husband, which would be extremely awkward for everyone. I was quite upset about it, but they said it couldn't be helped because the wedding would be too big. They vowed to make things up to me at some point, but they never did. Like a fool, I kept expecting for them to recognize that I was just as much of a parent to them as their mother. I thought it had finally happened. But when they came to see me lately and started talking about how they'd heard my business was doing well, and then suggested I spend more time with my grandchildren and help them out financially, I knew what was going on. It was tough not to be upset with them at the time, but I promised them I would surely think about it. They appeared satisfied, so they left. After they left, I blocked them everywhere since I suspected they were attempting to defraud me. Gavin has 2 children, the eldest is 5 years old and the youngest is 1 year old. Hannah's daughter was born 6 months ago, as far as I know. Guess what? I have not met any of my grandchildren yet. My first grandchild was born 5 years ago, and I still haven't met him. Of course it hurts. I've tried to persuade Gavin to bring over his children or ask me over so I could meet them. When Hannah's baby was born, I attempted to meet her as well, but they consistently declined. It was always the same excuse: Marie and her husband would be present and did not want things to become unpleasant. It stung to have to comprehend and let go all the time. They finally want to offer me the opportunity to play grandfather, and I'm guessing it's all because things aren't going well for them financially. I had no idea about any of this before, which is why I didn't completely remove them out of my life. Just to be clear, I am not in close contact with the majority of my extended family, and I am not a fan of family gossip. But when my children came to see me after so many years and began to be polite to me, I sensed something was wrong. So, once they went, I blocked them. Just to satiate my curiosity, I decided to ask around about what my children were up to. That's how I learned that they've been experiencing financial difficulties for the previous few years. Furthermore, their relationship with their stepfather is no longer all sunshine and rainbows. This surprised me because, based on the images they'd posted after their mother remarried, it appeared that the family was really close to the guy. Apparently, things are going bad since he intends to sell his company. They sell furniture, and once Marie married him, my children began working at his company. I don't want to say it because I'm not sure, but I believe that's why they were so ready to support their mother during the divorce. They must have felt that if they could persuade me to ease up on their mother instead of dragging out the divorce, they would be guaranteed a position in their stepfather's company. Basically, Marie's affair partner had bought them out, something I had never suspected. The difficulty is that the company hasn't done particularly well in recent years. Marie's husband wants to sell the business, but my children want him to keep it. He owns the company, so he stands to earn the most from the transaction, and he's fortunate enough to have found a buyer right now. My children, on the other hand, are opposed to the purchase because, despite receiving a percentage of the earnings as stockholders and high management workers, they will lose their jobs. They want to make a long-term plan for themselves. It's a complex situation, and many members of the family are aware of it due to Marie's tendency to speak out. She's been venting about this to everybody who will listen, so it's no surprise that their family is arguing right now. I'm guessing that's why Gavin and Hannah approached me for aid. It's no secret that we are doing well. We're running commercials, and word of mouth has been fantastic for us. After gathering all of this information and meeting with a number of my family, I chose to keep my children blocked. I have no interest in their lives. They have shown no interest in me for the past 8 years. Even now, they're only here because they are in difficulty. It seems demeaning, and I feel like an idiot for expecting them to come to their senses and apologize to me. A few days after I blocked them, they returned to my door and demanded that I let them in. Even when I said I didn't want to talk to them, they pushed. I informed them that I had heard from the family about what was going on with them and their stepfather, and that I understood they were simply coming to seek financial assistance from me. I reminded them that the reason they left me in the first place was because their stepfather could provide them with stable employment and upper management positions that I couldn't. I called them sellouts. In reaction, They began accusing me of being insensitive and bitter. They stated they had no such plans and that they simply wanted to make things right with me. They stated they recognized that, at the end of the day, I was still their father, and they couldn't keep prioritizing Marie over me. They also indicated that the sole reason they had requested for financial assistance was for their children, not because I was doing well financially. They thought it was horrible that I had reached such a judgment after listening to a lot of no-good gossipmongers in the family. This happened 2 days ago, and I've been quite distressed by it all. It's become so terrible that I have to take time off work because I can't stop thinking about what to do. Logically and intellectually, I believe the rest of the family is not lying to me. They would gain nothing from it. Also, my family has always been kind to me, even since my divorce. They've always looked out for me, which I greatly appreciate. So, I don't believe they are lying or gossiping. They're simply answering my questions because I was the one who investigated the case. That being said, I'm not sure if I should give my kids an opportunity to work things out with me. Should I just give them a little cash help? After all, I am earning well enough to support them, and I am very certain they are not looking for a long-term commitment. They'll probably acquire jobs after the company is sold. I presume they are simply expecting me to be their safety net because of their children. I haven't actually spoken with them what kind of money they want. Whether it's an investment, a loan, or simply goodwill. In any case, I am aware that financial assistance will be provided. I feel as if I don't want to pass up an opportunity to reconnect with my children and create a relationship with my grandchildren just because of this. The way they discussed the situation during their visit the other day has thrown me off guard, and I'm not sure what to think anymore. I've been continually anxious, and I'm wondering whether I'm making the worst mistake of my life by shutting out my children. Perhaps I am being insensitive and ungrateful, as they stated. If I let my ego get the best of me, I doubt I'll ever have another chance to work things up with my family. The only thing holding me back right now is my fear of being used, which I absolutely do not want. I really don't know what to think anymore. I feel lost, and I don't think I have anyone I can freely discuss this with. So here I am, an old man attempting to figure out life after being mostly alone since my divorce. As much as I hate to admit it, I miss my children a lot and want them in my life. However, I am unsure if this is the best approach. So, am I wrong for not wanting to be financially involved with my children? Update 1. Thank you for your comments. I guess I needed a reality check since, in desperation, I had considered talking to my children. But now I realize I'm being exploited, and I shouldn't be such a doormat to them. That is what I have been all these years. They would speak to me as if they were doing me a favor, but they would always ignore me because they preferred Marie and her husband. Now that I understand why people preferred him, I don't think there's any going back. I even discussed it with my friends at work. They were aware of the history, but when I informed them of the current situation and what I had recently discovered, they were outraged. Initially, they assumed that Marie had misled my children, which is why they did not want to communicate with me. They believed there might still be some room for reconciliation. However, now that they know my children were technically bought out by their stepfather, they decided there was no going back. They instructed me to keep my kids blocked for my own self-respect and sanity, because if I didn't, they would undoubtedly burn a hole in my pocket. I'm still not sure what type of money they wanted. Even if it was a tiny sum, I don't feel obligated to repay them. Even if they were telling the truth the other day and asked for the money for their children rather than themselves, I still don't owe it to them. They've never brought my grandchildren over to see me, nor have they let me visit them. So, why would I connect with anyone? I know that seems insensitive, but it is true. I can't start feeling horrible for every child I've never met and giving money out as if it were charity. If this makes me appear insensitive and resentful in their eyes, so be it. I don't care, and I don't have to justify myself to them. I'm just going to stay far away from them and live my life. It will hurt, but I don't think it can hurt any more than it has in the last 8 years. If I can put up with that without complaining, I believe I can deal with the consequences of cutting them off now. At least this time, it will be my decision, and I will have control of the situation rather than them treating me poorly. Thank you for hearing me out. I really needed to get my frustrations out someplace. If anything changes in the scenario, I'll keep you updated. Thank you again for your support. Update 2. Hello, it has been 2 weeks since I last provided an update. I stated that if there were any developments, I would publish here and keep you updated. While I was at work yesterday, Gavin and Sarah arrived with my grandchildren and demanded to see me. I was occupied with a training session for a handful of pupils. I usually don't take meetings around that time, so anyone who wants to meet with me has to wait. They allegedly refused to wait. I'm not sure why they anticipated special treatment, especially because nobody at work knew they were my kids. Even if they did, that would not qualify them for special treatment. Our receptionist alerted me of the problem and explained that they were unwilling to wait. I was annoyed, so I instructed security to accompany them to my office and make them wait there to avoid a commotion in the lobby. I then took my time getting through the training session. After having them wait for over half an hour, I returned to my office to meet them. It was petty, but they needed to understand that they couldn't just walk up at my business and expect me to drop everything to entertain them, no matter what time of day. When I arrived at my office, Gavin and Sarah were visibly unhappy. My grandchildren appeared bored and fussy. As soon as I walked in, they began lecturing me on the value of time and how rude it was of me to make them wait so long on purpose, especially because my grandchildren were with them. Their entitlement was quite unpleasant. I told them that I handled them the same way I would anyone who came to see me during a training session. If others could wait for me to finish my work before meeting with me, they could do the same. The fact that I had never been treated nicely by them before, let alone given special treatment while being their father, made their behavior even more upsetting. Their decision to bring their children was entirely their fault. This was a training institution, and I had a significant role here. If they couldn't take the fact that I was treating them like everyone else, they could leave. They simply waited because they wanted to. I had not forced them to stay. I had been pretty stern with them, and I could tell they were upset. But I think they wanted a favor from me and didn't want to make things worse for themselves. Instead, they swiftly shifted the subject and informed me that they had brought their children along so that I could meet them for the first time and begin forming a bond as their grandfather. It was quite difficult for me, but I had to shut that down. I told them I was going home because it was my last training session of the day and all I wanted to do now was relax. Besides, I knew exactly what they were attempting to do. They were using their grandchildren to get on my good side, and I wasn't going to fall for it. I informed them that using their children to gain access to me showed a lack of courage. It is unethical. They began defending themselves, stating that was not their goal. They said that they had merely brought the children to meet me. We ended up bickering about it because it was so clear that this was not coming from a place of genuine concern. They only wanted my money, which is why they were so desperate to get another shot. I could see straight through them. Regardless of how much they insisted, I told them it was too little, too late. I fell in love with my grandchildren right away. They're all gorgeous, and I wish we'd met under different circumstances. However, this is something their parents are to blame for. Following the fight, they insisted that I hear them out and allow them to explain their strategy, which required my money. I told them I was not interested. As the argument continued, they became increasingly frustrated. Gavin eventually lost his patience and began yelling at me. His ranting enraged the children, who began crying as a result of his harsh behavior. I tried to console the children while Gavin and Sarah continued to argue with me. It was so upsetting that I threatened to phone security and have them evicted from the building. I was sick of them, and I meant it. I believe they recognized it and eventually left. Before leaving, they told me I was heartless and that my ego would bring me down. But none of this mattered to me. I only wanted to go home and rest, so that's what I did. It has been 24 hours since then, and I still have not unblocked them. I don't intend to, especially given what happened yesterday. I don't think I need to. I'm finished. Update number 3. Hello. It's been 3 days since I last saw my children. I still haven't unblocked them, but they haven't stopped attempting to contact me. Earlier today, they sent me an email from a new address apologizing for all that had occurred recently. They confessed that this was not how they intended things to go, but they understood why I was furious with them. They were first annoyed by my behavior, despite their efforts to make things right with me. However, after some contemplation, they felt they deserved it. They also reinforced what I already knew, that everything I'd heard about them was true, not just rumors. They said they were astonished and offended when I accused them of preferring their stepfather over me because of the financial security he could provide. But, at the end of the day, they realized it was true and that they couldn't undo the past. They also recognized that by looking out for themselves, they had been really selfish, and that I deserved better. They stated I had every right to keep them out of my life, but their only condition was that I not exclude their children. They then outlined their plan. They wanted me to invest in a firm they were launching together. They couldn't stop their stepfather from selling his company because he was the principal owner, but they were now going it alone. To avoid endangering their own resources, they were considering bringing in a few investors, and I was obviously their first choice. They said they didn't get along with their stepfather anymore. After much thought, they recognized they had been selfish once more, attempting to enlist me as an investor without actually apologizing for their previous actions. They sent me this email to apologize and tell me that if I wanted to meet my grandchildren, I could phone them at any time and they would come over. They stated that they no longer wanted me to invest in their company and that it was fully up to me to decide. After receiving the email, I wasn't sure what to do. It appeared genuine, but I've been taken for a fool before and don't want it to happen again. However, I want to have a relationship with my grandchildren. I'll have to think about it, and whatever I decide, I'll share it here. I just need a vacation from everything right now. So, over the next few days, or perhaps weeks, I will not be posting as frequently. Update number 4. Hey, so I thought about it a lot, and now that it's been about 2 months since they last contacted me, I've decided to at least try to create a relationship with my grandchildren. I know it'll take a long time to reconnect with my children, but not with my grandchildren. I'm already 58, and I'm not getting any younger, therefore I don't want to lose any time or opportunities to spend with my family, no matter how minor. My grandchildren have already grown up without knowing their biological, actual grandpa. So, a few days ago, I finally responded to my children via that email address. I told them I'd be delighted to host them, their spouses, and the grandchildren for supper at my house this weekend. However, in the same email, I made it obvious that I would not be investing in their company. If they expected me to aid them financially at any time, they could forget it. I also told them that if this meant they wouldn't want to visit me, that was fine with me. I wanted to make my boundaries extremely clear. I wasn't going to let them breach them anymore. The tone of my email in the later section was rather severe, so I didn't expect them to respond the same day. Fortunately, they did. They informed me they didn't expect or want me to invest in their company, and that they didn't deserve it. They still wanted me to be able to connect with my grandchildren, so they gladly accepted my dinner invitation. So they ended up coming over for supper yesterday. We had a pretty good time. Their husbands are great individuals, and they all apologized for what had transpired in the past. They claimed they were looking forward to beginning afresh, and so am I. I really want to have a family again since it may be rather lonely. I'll be retiring soon, so now is a good opportunity to improve things. I'm so glad my children finally decided to contact me and do the right thing. Hopefully, things will improve for us in the future. My family tried to ruin my wedding. Am I the asshole for organizing a luxury cruise for my birthday and not inviting my parents or siblings? I, a 28-year-old male, work as a medical device development engineer for a large healthcare organization. Honestly, I never expected to find myself in this predicament. For context, I've been leading a groundbreaking initiative to create a new cardiac monitoring system that is transforming how we follow heart problems in real time. The technique we developed has the potential to save thousands of lives by detecting cardiac irregularities hours before a severe incident. Our team's work has been published in numerous leading medical journals, and we just received a renowned industry innovation award. Professionally, my life is flourishing. However, my familial situation is very different. That disparity has never been more clear than today, as I face what is perhaps the most important decision I've ever had to make about my familial relationships. I'm the middle child in a household with 3 siblings. My older brother Alex, 32 million, works as a cardiac surgeon at a famous hospital and is the perfect child. Sophia, 16F, my younger sister, is the baby of the family, and she is always showered with affection. Every year, their birthdays are huge celebrations. For Alex's last birthday, our parents leased out an entire premium restaurant, hosted over 100 guests, and spared no expense. When Sophia turned 16, they hired a live band and turned our backyard into a festival venue. I remember how they spent weeks preparing every detail, from creating custom decor to hiring a professional photographic crew. Let me paint you a picture of how I grew up. Every success I made was overshadowed by those of my siblings. I recall sitting at the dinner table on my 8th birthday, hearing my family talk about Alex's soccer game as if it were any other day. They had thrown him a massive superhero-themed party 2 weeks prior, complete with a magician, special costumes, and party favors that outperformed any item I possessed. The entire neighborhood was there, kids running around in capes and masks, and my parents were beaming with pride at their magnificent firstborn. When I eventually got up the confidence to ask if they had forgotten my birthday, my mother barely looked up from her phone and said, "Oh, sorry, honey, we've been so busy with Alex's tournament schedule and Sophia's dance performance. We will make it up to you next year." She returned to displaying everyone photos from Alex's party on her phone. I recall sitting there, staring at my untouched food and feeling invisible in my own home. They never made it up to me. Not that year or any other year. The pattern persisted throughout my childhood. When I was 13, we were enjoying a family meal when the waitress inquired about any upcoming birthdays. My mother actually chuckled and said, "Oh, just his, but we aren't doing anything major. He's not the type to require much." Everyone at the table giggled, as if it were a light-hearted joke. When I think back to that moment, the shame still burns in my chest. Later following year, they threw Sophia a half-birthday party because she was disappointed that her birthday fell during the summer while school was out. The gap wasn't limited to birthdays. Throughout my childhood, every request I made was answered with excuses, yet my siblings received whatever they want. When I was 10, Alex begged for the most recent game console. Our parents went 3 hours to another city to get it, stating, "Nothing's too much trouble for our future doctor." A few months later, I requested the local store for a scientific kit, which I planned to utilize for the school science fair. My mother disregarded it, stating, "That's too expensive right now." The following week, they purchased Sophia an iPhone simply because she mentioned wanting one in passing. They were not isolated incidents. Every accomplishment in my life was considered as an afterthought. I graduated from high school as valedictorian and was accepted into one of the top engineering institutions in the country. Most parents would be thrilled, right? I scarcely acknowledged it. My father simply responded, "That's nice," while gazing at his phone. My mother's only reply was, "Well, engineering was your backup since you didn't try for medical school like Alex." Alex was accepted to medical school the same month, and they celebrated with a wedding reception-themed party. They hired caterers, live music, and even had special decorations printed with the words, "Future Dr. Alexander" on them. 2 years later, when Sophia graduated from high school with ordinary grades, they hired a professional photographer, made a tribute video, and bought her a brand new automobile as a graduation present. My college graduation gift? A gift card to Best Buy. Now, let me tell you about my present career success, not to brag, but to demonstrate the stark contrast in how my family views accomplishments. For the past 2 years, I've led a team of 15 engineers in the development of a groundbreaking heart monitoring gadget. This is not just another medical device. We're talking about technology that has the potential to dramatically alter our approach to heart attack prevention. The device employs advanced AI algorithms to detect small cardiac problems up to 24 hours before a big incident, allowing clinicians critical time to treat. Our initiative has been highlighted in 3 major medical journals, and we recently received the Healthcare Innovation Award, one of the most distinguished accolades in our field. What's with the irony? Our gadget has the potential to benefit patients like the ones Alex treats, but he has never shown any interest in learning about my work. Throughout the award ceremony, my entire team's families were present, celebrating with champagne and taking proud photos. My parents? They did not even respond to the invitation. Last month, at our weekly family video call, I attempted to inform everyone about the honor. My mom interrupted me mid-sentence to ask Alex about his most recent operation schedule. They then spent 20 minutes admiring Sophia's Instagram images from her recent weekend excursion to the beach. My achievements were not even acknowledged. When I tried to bring it up again, my father simply said, "That's nice, son," before shifting the conversation to Alex's imminent department head nomination. I tried talking to them about this trend several times throughout the years. Each attempt has resulted in dismissal or gaslighting. "You're just too sensitive," my mother would say, rolling her eyes. "We treat all of our children equally," my father mumbled, avoiding eye contact as usual. Alex would smirk and add, "Maybe if you did something actually important," while Sophia would sigh deeply and label me an attention seeker. Despite their negligence, I've managed to have a prosperous life. I have a great career, good friends, and an amazing girlfriend, Stephanie, 27F, who has been really supportive throughout. She has seen personally how my family's treatment impacts me, even if I try to hide it. Last month, at a meal with her family, her mother made a greater production about my birthday than my own family has ever done. She prepared my favorite cake, which she recalled from a casual talk months earlier, and gave me a nice work-related gift. It was moving, but it also made me realize how much I had missed out on. That's what prompted my current decision. My birthday is in 3 weeks, and instead of preparing for another disappointment, I'm taking charge. I've booked a luxury cruise and organized a lavish celebration, not just any cruise. I have reserved a luxury suite package on one of the most prominent cruise lines. The program includes unique dining experiences, spa treatments, and private shore excursions. I'm inviting all of our extended family, my aunts, uncles, and cousins, as well as my close friends. The guest list contains approximately 50 people, all of whom have expressed an interest in my life and achievements over the years. But here's the kicker. I'm intentionally excluding my immediate family. The invitations have already been sent, and I have something special planned for the major celebration dinner. I'm going to show a slideshow, and not just any slideshow. I've accumulated images and memories of all the birthdays they missed, accomplishments they overlooked, and occasions they made me feel invisible. Each image will be accompanied by a related image of how they celebrated Alex or Sophia on similar occasions. Is this petty? Maybe. But it feels necessary. I've also prepared a presentation about our medical gadget project, not to brag, but to demonstrate what I've accomplished while my family was too preoccupied with Alex's medical career. The gadget has already been licensed for clinical trials, and preliminary findings indicate that it could lower cardiac death rates by up to 30%. This might potentially save thousands of lives. The word spread through the family grapevine, and the emotions have been intense. My Aunt Susan, who has always been more aware of family dynamics, immediately responded yes, and called to say she is proud of me for sticking up for myself. Several cousins have also offered their support, stating that they have noticed how I have been treated over the years but were unsure how to handle it. However, not everyone has been supportive. Some relatives describe me as petty and immature. My mother has been blowing up my phone, leaving voicemails alternating between guilt-tripping, "How could you do this to your mother after all we've sacrificed for you?" and threats. "You'll regret this behavior, young man." My father wrote his normal passive-aggressive text about how I am tearing the family apart and creating unnecessary drama. Alex called me childish and advised me to grow up and accept that some people just achieve more in life. Sophia wrote a cryptic, hostile social media post about attention-seeking behavior and toxic siblings who can't handle others' success. But my friends and Stephanie absolutely support me. My best friend from college, who has seen my family dynamics for years, said something that really resonated. "Sometimes it takes a great act to disrupt destructive patterns. You've attempted to talk to them quietly for years. Maybe they'll finally listen." Stephanie has been especially fantastic throughout this. She's helped me organize every aspect of the cruise, from the meals to the decorations. She reminded me that this isn't about vengeance, it's about finally standing up for myself and refusing to be the forgotten child any longer. Her encouragement has shown me what a good family dynamic should look like. The cruise is booked, invites have been sent, and there is no going back now. Most of the visitors have already said yes, with many expressing enthusiasm for both the event and what it represents. Some relatives are plainly split between wanting to support me and being concerned about the potential for conflict with my parents. Surprisingly, most people are still opting to come. I created a special Instagram hashtag for the event and began posting teases about the approaching celebration. My mother saw these posts, despite being blocked. She created a bogus account and called my aunt in tears, screaming that I was publicly humiliating the family. Everyone understands the hypocrisy of her now caring about family disgrace after years of publicly ignoring me. I understand that this may appear radical to some people. Perhaps it is. But after 28 years of being treated as an afterthought, of seeing my siblings lauded while I am disregarded, of having my accomplishments discounted and my feelings questioned, it seems necessary. This isn't just a birthday celebration anymore. It's about taking control of my story and telling my family that I'm not going to be the invisible middle child any longer. The cruise will set off in 3 weeks. Half of me is delighted to finally celebrate myself properly, but another half is concerned about the consequences. Some friends say I should have broken contact discreetly rather than making a statement, but I believe I needed to do so, not just for me, but for any middle kid who has ever felt ignored. Am I taking things too far? Should I have taken a less dramatic approach to this situation? The cruise is paid for, and the majority of guests have confirmed, but I'm still wondering if I'm burning bridges that I might wish to cross again in the future. I would welcome any suggestions, especially from individuals who have experienced similar familial situations. Update 1. It's been 2 weeks since the cruise birthday celebration, and I need to tell you what happened because things have escalated beyond my expectations. The cruise itself was amazing. Almost everyone who had RSVP'd turned up, around 45 people in total, including the majority of our extended family and close friends. I presented my slideshow during the first night's welcome dinner in the ship's premium restaurant. The crowd fell silent as photos appeared on the screen. Empty chairs at my childhood birthday dinners juxtaposed with Alex's grandiose festivities. My overlooked academic successes next to Sophia's recognized occasions. What I didn't expect was my Aunt Carol to burst into tears halfway through, claiming she had never realized the enormity of the disparity. Several additional relatives stated that they had seen the unequal treatment but had not realized how systematic it was until they saw it set out chronologically. The presentation on my medical gadget project garnered a resounding response. My uncle Robert, who works in hospital administration, even approached me about deploying our monitoring system at his facility. It's funny how my professional accomplishments suddenly become impressive when validated by others. But this is where things became intense. On the second day of the vacation, my mother convinced the cruise line to let her board at our first port call. She stated she was a surprise visitor invited to the celebration. Security let her through because she had images of me on her phone that proved she was my mother. She stormed into our lunch gathering, mascara flying, yelling about how I was attempting to turn the family against her. "After all we've done for you?" she shouted in front of everyone. "You ungrateful and hateful child." Stephanie attempted to intervene, but my mother turned on her, accusing her of poisoning her son against his family. The big shock came when my normally quiet Aunt Margaret rose up and challenged my mother. "Helen," she continued firmly, "we have all seen you prefer Alex and Sophia for years. We said nothing since we did not want to intervene. But this is over now." Several more relatives joined in, expressing their own views on unfair treatment throughout the years. My mother left in tears, but the drama hadn't ended. That evening, Alex and Sophia carried out a concerted social media onslaught. They shared childhood images with notes criticizing ungrateful siblings and attention-seeking behavior. However, it backfired terribly. People began commenting with their own insights about how I had been handled differently throughout the years. The cruise lasted 3 more days, then something unexpected happened. Without my immediate family around, I experienced what genuine family support is like. My cousins shared anecdotes about their own experiences with partiality. Uncle James, whom I had always assumed was distant, confessed that he had followed my career via business publications and was truly happy of my accomplishments. When we returned, I saw over 30 missed calls from my parents and a lengthy email from my father. For the first time, he acknowledged the inequality in how they treated us, but in a way that made matters worse. We focused more on Alex because he was following the family medical tradition and on Sophia because she needed extra support. "You were always so independent and capable. We thought you didn't need the attention." The fallout has persisted. Yesterday, my mother arrived at my office, causing a disturbance in the foyer. She requested to meet with me, telling the security guard how I was breaking her heart and destroying our family. My colleagues witnessed the entire incident, and my supervisor later summoned me in to make sure I was okay. Surprisingly, he recounted his own experience breaking free from poisonous family dynamics and expressed his entire support. Stephanie's family has been fantastic throughout this. Her parents asked me over for supper last night and told me they consider me a member of their family. Her father even admitted that he wishes he'd had the fortitude to challenge his own family's partiality when he was young. The most unexpected development came from my younger relatives. Several of them have contacted me to say that seeing me stand up for myself has given them the confidence to handle similar difficulties in their own family relationships. My cousin Jenny even included our narrative into her psychology class presentation on family systems and partiality. Looking ahead, I've resolved to stick to the restrictions I've set. I'm not fully cutting off touch, but I'm no longer willing to be the forgotten child. I've blocked my siblings on social media and created email filters for my parents. My new policy is simple: I will only interact with family members who respect me and acknowledge their previous behavior. Stephanie and I are considering moving in together, possibly to a different city where her employer has an office. The distance may be beneficial, allowing everyone time to process and reflect. Thank you to everyone who has advised me on this problem. The trip may have appeared to be an extreme gesture, but it brought concerns to light that had been festering for decades. Sometimes you need a major moment to break old habits. The next post will most likely come after my parents' next wedding anniversary event, which I have already decided not to attend. Change is difficult, but important. Update 2. It has been 6 months since my last post, and I can't believe I'm writing this, but the situation has worsened much worse. What's the biggest news? Stephanie and I are engaged. What should have been a happy occasion has turned into another family drama. Following the cruise incident, I had little contact with my immediate family, preferring to focus on my relationship with Stephanie. The suggestion came at an ideal time, during a weekend trip to showcase our medical product at a healthcare conference. She's been my rock during all of this family drama. However, things turned ugly during our venue tour last weekend. We were touring our third potential wedding destination, a lovely historic building with a garden ceremony area. Halfway through the trip, I heard my mother's voice echoing down the corridor. They had somehow learned about our venue tour schedule. Later, I realized that my cousin Lauren had unintentionally disclosed it in the family group chat. My parents arrived with Alex and Sophia in tow, like some sort of intervention team. My mother immediately began telling the venue coordinator about her idea for the wedding, completely ignoring Stephanie and me. When I firmly said that they had not been invited and needed to leave, my mother burst into tears in front of the venue personnel and other couples who were visiting the space. What occurred next still seems strange. Alex, the responsible older brother, attempted to pull me away for a family discussion. When I declined, he remarked, "This is what happens when you let the middle child make important decisions." Sophia was shooting everything with her phone, perhaps for a dramatic social media post. The venue planner, bless her heart, quickly recognized the situation and had security escort them out, but not before my mother yelled that she would never forgive this betrayal, and that I was breaking your father's heart all over again. Here's the thing, they didn't just come across us. They had obviously planned this. They brought printed images from my childhood of good family occasions, which they planned to exhibit to the venue workers. My mother even brought her old wedding album and discussed family traditions that we needed to incorporate. After they left, we discovered that they had already visited our other 2 potential wedding locations earlier that week, informing the staff that they were the key decision makers. They even attempted to put down deposits to secure the dates. Stephanie was naturally shaken. Her family was appalled when they learned what had transpired. Her father, who is generally very polite, called my father immediately to inform him that their behavior was unacceptable. This sparked more controversy, with my father accusing Stephanie's family of stealing his son. We have recently chosen to drastically rethink our wedding arrangements. Neither of the venues on our original list will be used. We're now looking at venues outside of our area, and we've engaged a wedding planner who specializes in dealing with delicate family circumstances. She is putting in place stringent security measures and a thorough guest screening process. What's the silver lining to all of this? Our bond has only gotten stronger. Stephanie and I are more confident than ever that we are making the proper decision to begin our lives together away from poisonous family relationships. I've also received unexpected help from my colleagues. My employer, remembering the recent event at our office, has approved additional security measures at work. He has even volunteered to host our wedding on his vacation property if we choose a fully private setting. The difficult element isn't the drama itself. It's recognizing that my wedding day, one of life's most important occasions, is being turned into yet another battleground for my family's turmoil. But this time, I am not backing down. Stephanie and I deserve to spend our day the way we want. We're going forward with our plans, but with increased security and an extremely selective guest list. Our wedding will be a celebration of love and happiness, not just another stage for family drama. Update 3. It's been 3 months since my last update, and I'd like to explain what happened at our wedding. This will be my final update since, following what happened, I've made a definitive choice about my family relationships. The wedding day began nicely. We found a stunning private estate 3 states away, hired security, and implemented stringent guest screening. Stephanie looked amazing, and our closest friends and selected family were present to support us. The morning preparations went well, and Stephanie's family made everyone feel loved and included. Despite all of our efforts, my mother was able to enter just as the officiant was about to begin the ceremony. The doors flew open, and my mother dashed down the aisle, my father trailing behind her like a reluctant shadow. What came next was bizarre. Instead of the standard "I object" moment, my mother launched a full-fledged show about how ungrateful I was. She had prints of family portraits, which she began handing to stunned guests as a bizarre wedding favor. What truly crossed the line was when she turned to Stephanie and remarked, "Good luck on this one. He's been bitter his entire life." But this is where things changed. Instead of letting this wreck our day, I finally mustered the courage to speak all I'd been holding back. I came up and quietly informed my mother, "This is not about you. It never was. This refers to your incapacity to love your children equally. Today is not about the past. It is about my future with Stephanie." The security team moved to escort my parents out, but my mother had not finished. She turned to the guests and began divulging sensitive family facts, attempting to embarrass me. That's when Stephanie's father intervened. He stepped between my parents and us, with serene power, saying, "You have made your point. Now, leave my children alone." The term "children" had a strong impact. In that moment, I understood I'd discovered what I'd been hunting for all along, a family willing to adore me. After being escorted away, something unexpected occurred. Several guests, even distant cousins who had watched my family's behavior over the years, spoke up to express their observations. My cousin's wife, a family therapist, discreetly informed me that my mother's behavior exhibited classic indicators of narcissistic family dynamics. We proceeded with the ceremony, which was magnificent. Stephanie's brother delivered a heartfelt tribute at the reception. He discussed how family is more than simply DNA, but also about individuals who celebrate your accomplishments and support you during difficult times. The next morning, my father called. For the first time in his life, he admitted their favoritism, but in a way that made everything plain. He responded, We only pushed Alex and Sophia more since you were so capable on your own. You must understand, it was easy to concentrate on them. That was it. That admission of taking the easiest road rather than being fair parents solidified my decision. I'm done trying to understand or repair this connection. I'm over expecting they'll change or suddenly become the parents I needed. I have officially changed my phone number. Our new house address is not listed. I took a promotion that puts me in charge of our company's West Coast expansion, which means we'll be moving across the nation. Stephanie's employer also has an office there, and her family has already made plans to visit. The medical device initiative continues to save lives. Last week, we received statistics indicating that our technology had avoided over 200 possible cardiac incidents. Alex still works at the same hospital that rejected our device implementation proposal, which is ironic given that it could have helped his patients. Thank you to everyone who has been following my story. Your support gave me the courage to speak up for myself and set boundaries. To anyone dealing with similar family dynamics, you deserve to be honored, you deserve to be seen. Sometimes the family you choose is more significant than the one you were born into. This will be my final update because there is nothing else to say. I'm not angry anymore, I am not hurt, I'm just finished. My new family, Stephanie, her family, our friends, and those who truly care about us, is my primary priority right now. Walking away from a situation is sometimes the healthiest option. It is not about vengeance or punishment. It is about choosing serenity, joy, and surrounding oneself with others who actually appreciate your existence. Karen and her husband attacked me and stole my PS5 from my trunk, despite the fact that the box contained coal. An entitled Karen attacked me in the parking lot and grabbed what they thought was a brand new PlayStation 5 from my trunk. Unfortunately for them, in an unusual twist of destiny, what they stole was full to the brim with coal. I had every intention of giving it as a joke gift, and I've never felt better about getting back at someone in my life. This is what occurred. To provide context, my wife and I have a secret Santa custom that we follow every year. During the holidays, we look for a family in need or facing a difficult financial condition, and we offer holiday cheer by purchasing Christmas gifts for the entire family. We surprise them with the gifts on Christmas Day. This year, we chose a family with a young kid who was a straight-A student and desperately desired a PlayStation 5. I had planned to surprise him with it on Christmas Day. Another thing I discovered while gathering information about the family was that they had a Christmas ritual of delivering gag gifts and playing pranks. Naturally, I decided to participate in the fun. My plan was simple. In addition to the real PlayStation 5, I'd find a separate PS5 box and use it as a prank gift. I filled the box with charcoal, attached a letter that said "Psych" with a troll face, and made sure everything was safe by adding extra padding to keep the charcoal in place. After weeks of begging around, I located a friend who was ready to give me an empty PS5 box. I graciously accepted it and began to work on the gag gift. Now all that remained was to get the genuine PlayStation 5. This is where things took a surprising turn. I located a local gaming shop with one PlayStation 5 left in stock and went to buy it right away. On my way out of the store, I nearly hit an unpleasant, screaming woman and her husband. They surged by me, almost hitting me with the door, without even saying "excuse me." These people were quite disrespectful, but I decided to brush it off. When I got to my car, I placed the new PlayStation 5 behind the driver's seat. Before leaving, I wanted to get some Gatorade from the cooler I kept in the trunk. While retrieving it, I spotted the woman from before, with her husband in tow, approaching me quickly from the corner of my eye. The entitled Karen exclaimed, "Hey, excuse me, sir?" I cautiously turned my head to face her and her spouse. Can I help you?" I asked. "Are you the guy that bought the last PlayStation 5? The spouse inquired. Silently loathing myself, I responded, "Yes, that would be me." This is entitled Karen stared at me and said, "Well, I need you to give me the PlayStation 5. We really need it." I replied, "I'm sorry, but the PS5 is a charity gift for a secret Santa that I'm doing." Karen responded, "Well, how about you be a secret Santa to our kids and give us the system?" I firmly responded, "Ma'am, I'm sorry, but I can't do that." Her spouse remarked, "Dude, you can easily find another one at another store or a pawn shop nearby." "Why don't you guys just do that?" I countered. That's when Karen lost it. She began yelling, "Our time is valuable. We can't waste time looking around town for another one." I replied gently, "I'm sorry, but a lack of preparation on your part is not my problem." Before I could finish, Karen interrupted me, saying, Oh, don't give me that BS." The spouse then replied, "Okay, listen, I have $200 in my pocket. That's yours if you just give me the PlayStation 5. I informed him, "It cost me $400. Karen, clearly agitated, snapped, "For the love of God, just take the money." Before I could finish saying, "Sorry, that's not going to happen," my spouse gave me an unexpected shove. I'm a bigger guy, yet this threw me completely off guard. The shove knocked me to the ground, sending my spectacles flying off my face. As I struck the ground, the spouse said, "Grab the box." I dimly observed them reach into my car's trunk and remove the PlayStation 5 box. I scrambled to find my glasses and put them back on, just to watch the two of them speed across the parking lot to their car. I chased after them, but they were able to reach their vehicle and get inside before I could catch up. They rushed away as I stood there, filled with rage and disbelief at the audacity of what had transpired. A bystander approached to see if I was okay after the shove and offered to contact the police. I was so outraged that I decided to contact the police myself. I wanted to see if they could get the store to look through any CCTV tape for a license plate or anything beneficial. As I unlocked my car door to get my phone, I noticed something tucked in the back seat. The PlayStation 5 I had just purchased, still in its bag with the receipt. Confused, I opened the package for a sanity check and discovered the brand new PS5 still wrapped. I sat there for a minute, stunned by the entire scene. I had obviously seen the couple steal a PlayStation 5 box, but the one I had just bought was there in front of me. Then it dawned on me. The PS5 they confiscated was a gag gift. When I discovered this, I nearly died laughing, much to the surprise of the bystander who had come to check on me. I explained the scenario to him, and he chuckled too. He asked if I still wanted to call the police, but I opted not to. It was just a joke gift, after all, and I saw no reason to try to get it back. As I drove away, I felt another sense of disappointment, not because of the theft, but because I wouldn't be able to see the couple's astonishment when their child opened the dummy box and saw a bag of charcoal and a troll face. Even better, they would be unable to return anything because it had been stolen. Sure, I didn't get to deliver the funny gift myself, but knowing I could still spread Christmas cheer to a less fortunate youngster made it all worthwhile. I can't believe they did that to you. First and foremost, I would have called the police in that situation. That is something I would never overlook. Sure, you got off pretty lucky when they stole the gag gift, which is incredibly hilarious, but to be shoved to the ground like that? That surely warrants punishment. Overall, wonderful for you for finding a way out of this, because things could have been much worse. My best friend's fiancé confessed he loves me but still planned to marry her. I told her, she left him, and I'm helping her move on. My best friend and I have always been close, and I adore her. We're really open and honest with each other, about as close as two people can go without being romantically attached. We're even joking that we're wives, because we're so close. Because of her fastidious personality, we have already discussed random circumstances and how we would like the other to approach them. For example, if a guy asked one of us out, how would the other react? Or if we both developed affections for the same person. We've even discussed what would happen if one of us died. One of these situations involved the dreaded, "if I had a boyfriend and he had feelings for you" issue. The possibility of this happening has arisen several times over the years, with varied degrees of concern. We both thought that would be terrible, but we couldn't agree on how to deal with it. I've always claimed that I'd want to know regardless of the circumstances, but she insisted on not telling me. She has been adamant about this every time it comes up, regardless of how I phrase or change the circumstance. She made it abundantly apparent that she would never want to know. About 3 years ago, my best buddy began dating a guy. He was already a loose member of our friend group, so we both knew him. I didn't think much of him at first. He appeared cool, courteous, and respectful. He gradually grew more integrated into our group, and he got along with everyone. The guys in the group liked him, the girls were excited for my closest friend, and, most importantly, she was overjoyed. She had always wanted to be in love, and he seemed ideal for her. He treated her and everyone else with great respect. He and I got along great, but we never hung out one-on-one. Our conversations were primarily limited to small talk about music, work, and other casual topics, which occurred in group situations. He made similar efforts to connect with the other members of the group, and I always appreciated that he was interested in her life and the people she was close to. I've always been the odd one out among our group of pals. I missed a few classes in school, so the most of my pals are significantly older than me, and I've always been the baby of the group. While most of us attended to the same institution, I've never been interested in dating. Though I've had interest from men, I'm a daydreamer who is obsessed with my profession. My future goals do not include children, and may not even include marriage. The idea of love appeals to me, but I've always been content with myself and have never felt compelled to seek it out. This resulted in an ongoing joke among our friends about me dying alone, surrounded by dogs. It was innocent fun, and the guy joined in on the jokes. Over time, I observed that he was particularly concerned in my love life, urging me to follow my goals and take my time. My best friend always did the same thing, so I didn't think much of it. Until about 4 months ago, I met a man, 25 million, who utterly swept me off my feet. We'll call him Max because that is his name. It was very unexpected, he just swooped in, and we've had a lovely, fairy tale-like romance. Because of my lack of experience with relationships, I've spent a lot of time discussing my sentiments with my best buddy. She's pleased for me, offers advice, and is usually quite supportive. Her fiancé, let's call him Guy, is often present during these chats and occasionally contributes. Everything seemed wonderful and awesome until Guy started acting strangely. We'd be hanging out as a group, and I'd relate a tale about Max. Guy would suddenly act strangely, informing me that seemingly typical things Max did were red flags. For example, when Max unexpectedly came up to take me stargazing late at night, which I appreciated because I enjoy surprises and work in astronomy, Guy went on about how hazardous it was for me to go alone, blah, blah. Guy has always been polite, supportive, and considerate to others. His judgment is so respected that my best friend began to question Max's intentions solely because Guy expressed doubts. Meanwhile, all of my other pals thought Max sounded fantastic and dismissed Guy's conduct as strange. During this time, Guy told me that he planned to marry my closest friend. I was ecstatic for them and pledged to keep it a secret. He told me because he wanted advice on the ring and how my best friend wanted to be proposed to. Everything appeared fine until it wasn't. The tipping point occurred when Max met my friends for the first time. Everyone liked him, and he appeared to get along with everybody. Max and Guy were speaking off to the side when Guy abruptly dropped his drink on the table and walked out of the pub. My best friend became perplexed and pursued him, while I approached Max to find out what had happened. Max appeared shocked. He told me that Guy had been performing the big brother thing, which he had learned from a number of the guys in the group. The majority of them were joking around, but Guy was much more serious. He stormed out after Max expressed how serious he was about me. Max told him that there was no need for concern because he would never injure me. Later on, Max speculated that Guy might be envious. I was hesitant because Guy had never done or said anything to indicate that he had affections for me. He'd always treated me the same as the rest of the group, despite the fact that we spent more time together because I frequently visited him and my closest friend's house. I decided I'd had enough of the stress and messaged Guy. First, I inquired if he was okay. Then I stated I hoped things was okay amongst us all. The conversation went as follows. My response: "Is everything okay? I hope we're good." The gentleman: "It's not cool, I don't trust that guy." You: "Do you mind if I ask why not?" Specifically: "No one else has bad vibes, everyone even invited him to the beach tomorrow." Guy: "What are you saying?" He looks at you funny. "I can't explain it properly. You've known me a while. You know I have your best interests at heart, trust me on this. I understand that you can't help but get bad vibes, but no one else does. I'm sorry, but I need more than trust me to go on. While I appreciate your concern, I'm capable of making my own mistakes, and I don't think this is one. It would mean a lot to me if you could try to get along with him to make it easier for him to fit in. I plan on keeping him around for a while, and, best friend, wants to do double dates and stuff. You're going to run into him eventually." Guy replies: 1. Double dates sound lame. 2. Even if they didn't, I don't want him to come. I say: 1. Take that up with your lady. 2. Do you really not like him that much? He responded: "Okay, he seems alright, but kind of weird. How can a theater kid be so alpha? It's more that I'm jealous." My response was: "I resent the notion that theater guys can't be manly. But also, the group is really tight, and everyone really likes you. You've been one of us for years now. Max got a lot of attention tonight because he's the new guy. I'm sorry if you felt excluded, but I promise it's really not like that." He didn't respond for a long, then sent this. He said: "I've been thinking very carefully about how to phrase this message. I don't want you to think I don't love best friend, because I do, very much, but I'm also in love with you and have been for about 2 years. When I realized, I thought about breaking up with best friend, but you were always so in your own world. I thought I'd never have a shot anyway, especially if I was your BFF's ex. I pushed it down and lived with it. It was hard, it sucked. I got over it, Kai. I figured that if I couldn't be with you, I could at least be happy with best friend and close to you. Then you met Max, and watching you begin to fall in love with him was the most difficult thing I've ever had to do. I know this is cliché and theatrical, I know it's wrong, and I should just not say anything about him, but I genuinely feel sick when you talk about him. I can't tell you how much I wanted to strike the guy last night, and then how bad I felt about it when I learned he was actually a nice guy. I believe the only thing worse than you being with another guy is you being with another guy I like. Sorry for offloading this onto you. I know it's unfair to do this now. I do love best friend, you know I do. I want to marry her. I would rather you didn't tell her, but what happens next is up to you, I guess. You. If this is a joke, it's not funny. Can you please tell me the truth? He replied. Sorry, but that is the truth. What are you going to do? I have not responded to him. He then sent me a few more texts, asking what I was going to do. I said, I'm thinking. Small edit. Since I posted this, he has sent several more messages wondering what I was going to do. I told him I hadn't made up my mind, but I also made it apparent that I didn't reciprocate his feelings. I am devastated, and my feelings are nothing compared to how best friend would react if she knew. I want to tell her so badly. I know if I were in her situation, I would want to know. The last thing I want is to marry someone who isn't open with me about something like this. But when we joked about this situation earlier this year, she insisted she didn't want to know. I understand it is not my responsibility, but I still feel bad. I'm wondering if I did anything to provoke Guy's reaction, and if I can even continue to pretend he never said anything. His affections have never been reciprocated. Max was with me when I received the message and has been incredibly supportive, albeit a little annoyed with Guy for obvious reasons. Send help. Summary. Best friend and Guy met 3 years ago. He fit right in with our group of friends, got along with everyone, and was overall a pleasant person. Life continued on. They moved in together, and I was overjoyed for her. He is everything she has ever wanted. Then I met what seemed to be my dream boyfriend. Everyone was pleased for me, except Guy, who became quite standoffish and strange about it. I don't think much about it. Guy wants to marry my closest friend and asks me for advice. Awesome. After Max and Guy meet for the first time, things quickly escalate. Guy begins messaging me that he is in love with me but wants to marry my best friend and only be in love with me in the shadows. His sentiments for me are not returned in the slightest. I need to discuss this Reddit. Should I tell her? Should I keep this to myself? I am upset at Guy. I feel dreadful. I feel terrible for my dearest friend. I'm not sure if I can face her in the eyes while she marries this person. I'm not sure I can let her marry him without her knowing all the facts. I'm overwhelmed. Please give me some advice. Update. Sorry, this will probably grow long. It does. There were many differing ideas on what to do, and many of you had very good reasons for your suggestions. However, there appeared to be a consensus. 1. This sucks, and there is no ideal answer, and 2. Everyone seemed to agree on the letter idea, which had been presented by a couple of people. The gist was that I should write a letter, add screen caps, and then give her the information. That way, she would have some control over whether or not she wanted to know. I have to admit that telling her there was something to know felt like I was forcing her to open it. But this is what happened. I made the envelope and went to her house while Guy was working, or just to hang out, typical things. Reddit, I'm not a bad actress, but this woman knows me very well. She answered the door for me and instantly asked what was wrong. To my everlasting shame, I burst into tears. It was quite pitiful of me and not great. Ugh. After I had collected myself, I began saying what I had been practicing in my brain. That was something we'd discussed a lot in hypothetical scenarios, and it had actually occurred. She'd always stated she didn't want to know, but I wanted to give her the option. I handed her the letter. Then, without even opening it, she started crying, which prompted me to restart. That was okay since the absurdity of us both standing in her living room crying all over each other made us giggle a little. Many others assumed she had noticed or understood Guy's feelings, and they were completely correct. But it gets crazier than that. I honestly cannot believe I'm describing this. It's simply odd. I do not know. My closest friend had assumed Guy had a harmless little crush on me, the kind that people in partnerships sometimes have. But when he didn't tell her about it, she began to feel uncomfortable. She did something she should not have. You know how it goes, she snooped. She snooped on his PC months ago and discovered a file with my initials buried among a slew of other documents. She went to get his laptop and handed it to me to read as she read my letter. Inside, he had written stories, similar to fan fiction, about the three of us living a poly-relationship lifestyle as spouses. Some of it was sexual content, which, I think I would understand more if it had only been sexual fantasies. However, there were also really long records about our lives together. It also goes deep. There was a whole storyline about him attempting to persuade me to have children. I love them, but I don't have children, and everyone knows it. There were many stories of varying lengths. I didn't read them all. Instead, I browsed them with my mouth hanging wide. It's difficult to express. It was strange to read about myself like that. There were newer docs that my closest friend hadn't read yet. She went on to say that she didn't mind because she was in all of the articles as well. That reassured her of his love for her, but having me in their lives in that way was clearly not ideal for her. She was disturbed by the way he had spoken to me in the previous day's messages and those he had sent since. I asked her many questions, including whether she felt safe. She stated she did. When I asked her what she wanted to do, she stated she wanted to leave him. She also apologized for not informing me earlier. While it bothers me that she didn't, given what transpired later, I've basically forgiven her and put any discussion about it on hold. She doesn't need it right now. I've been so glad that she wasn't upset with me for busting her bubble and was more concerned about her that it appears to be a secondary issue. This was not one of the things I expected to happen during my vacation. The subject then moved to me being concerned about her safety. While he does not appear to be dangerous, his conduct is quite compulsive, and he is clearly irritated that his fantasy is growing more and more distant from reality with Max in the picture. I'm also concerned about Max's safety. I'm not sure if I'm being rational or paranoid. She continuously assured me that she felt absolutely protected. She claims he has never done anything but this, which is a red sign, but she still wants to leave. She is naturally cautious, so she is taking extra precautions. Then she stood up and began packing her bags, giving me normal, business-like orders on what items she wanted me to gather from around the home. She filled her suitcases, and I packed a box with her personal belongings. She then wrote a note to Guy stating that she no longer thought they should be together and that she would discuss it with him via messaging or in person a few days later in a public area. She assured me of the plan. This is when I may have done something wrong, I'm not sure. I have a pen drive on my keychain. I told her I needed to grab copies of the articles because, even if she doesn't believe it would happen, we need something to prove his compulsive behavior. She consented, and I now have a pen drive filled with stories and playlists about myself. My best friend and her ex, I'm not going to lie, I've been tempted to read the stories out of morbid curiosity, but I've managed to resist so far. We went to my apartment first to decide what to do next. Her feelings were understandably mixed. I then got a call from Max and filled him in. He advised we stay with him because Guy doesn't know where he lives. However, my best friend preferred to stay in a nearby motel. We paid for it with my car, and after I hovered nervously over her as she settled in, she finally declared she wanted to be alone. That is not uncommon for her when she is upset. I've been visiting her, and she's been messaging me the entire time. So I'm very certain about where her brain is, sad, but coping well given everything. Still, I can't help but be worried. I'll remain with Max till things settle down. Since approximately 5 p.m. That night, 2 nights ago, I received messages from Guy. They are the I just want to talk sort, not aggressive or anything. I was about to block him on everything, but my best friend persuaded me not to since she was concerned about his mental health. For the time being, I'm staying at Max's as a precaution. Guy has attempted to communicate with both me and her, but the only reaction he has received is to read the note she left him again. Finally, thank you to everyone who left a remark, especially those who wrote a lot, gave great advice, sent me good vibes, or PM'd me. You people were fantastic, and I appreciate all of your feedback. My mother-in-law tried to ruin my marriage by stealing my phone, but her plan failed and her own daughter is suing her. She's absolutely insane. I, 34 female, and my hubby, 37 male, have been married for around 5 years. My mother-in-law was a headache to deal with long before we were engaged. She loathed me from the moment she met me. She has treated me horribly since the beginning, which is absolutely unnecessary. When my husband and I initially started dating, she would make so many comments about how we wouldn't last and how he'd ultimately become bored with me and go on. This continued after 3 years of being together. She refused to give up on the thought that we would soon break up. However, to her dismay, he proposed, and we became engaged. His father, sister, 35 female, and brother, 39 male, were all thrilled for us and have always been quite supportive. However, his mother was extremely salty and made no effort to hide it. She even expressed her disappointment in front of everyone, which was the most ludicrous thing imaginable. By then, I was used to it, so I didn't let it bother me. Thankfully, the rest of my husband's family is quite pleasant and has always made me feel welcome. My husband and his siblings are really close, and he adores them. My husband frequently stands up for them when their mother is too much to handle. My sister-in-law is married, and my mother-in-law also has a difficult relationship with her husband. While that is unfortunate, it is comforting to know that someone else understands what I am going through. My mother-in-law also made wedding planning extremely difficult. She was continually demanding that everything be done her way. She wanted to choose the venue, dress, cuisine, theme, and everything else, which made the situation extremely stressful. It reached to the point where I was considering canceling the wedding because it had become too much. But we made it through, and the wedding went off smoothly. My mother-in-law made a few disparaging remarks about my body, but my mother and sister-in-law yelled at her and escorted her out of the room. Aside from that minor hitch, our wedding went quite well. I hope that once my husband and I married, my mother-in-law would stop complaining about how we wouldn't last and we could start to get along. I was very, terribly wrong. She just couldn't get over the concept that one day my husband would wake up and realize I wasn't good enough for him, and we'd split. She would frequently make comments about how my husband should do better, that he should be with someone who could give him children. I'm infertile. She'd even try to suggest other women he could leave me for. For those who are concerned, my spouse defends me anytime she makes rude remarks. He shuts her down immediately, and if things get too nasty, we leave. He will not contact her until she has apologized to me. While her attitude does not change, my husband stands up for me. He has offered to cut off all communication with her if I wish, but I do not want to be the reason he no longer has a relationship with his mother. So I've always assured him it was okay and unnecessary. Besides, I was already used to her attitude, so it didn't bother me too much. We don't get to see my mother-in-law too much because of her conduct. We only go on exceptional occasions, like holidays or birthdays. I feel awful for my father-in-law, who is a wonderful guy, but we needed to set these boundaries because my mother-in-law is too much to bear. This applies to my sister-in-law and brother-in-law as well. They avoid seeing her as much as possible. However, when we do go, we are usually all together, and it is enjoyable to hang out with them. This past weekend, we all went over to celebrate my father-in-law's birthday. Everyone was present, which was wonderful, and we had a great time. My mother-in-law maintained her typical demeanor, but we did our best to ignore her and concentrate on the birthday man. We didn't want to give her any more attention than was required. We departed after the party, and everything appeared to be all right. Nothing noteworthy happened, or so we thought. Yesterday, I received a call from my brother-in-law, who informed us that my sister-in-law was planning to sue their mother. My husband and I were really perplexed, wondering why she would attempt to sue her own mother seemingly out of nowhere. He then revealed what happened on my father-in-law's birthday. My mother-in-law had stolen my sister-in-law's phone, believing it to be mine. She used it to message many random men for hookups, with the intention of showing my husband and convincing him that I was cheating on him, so he would leave me. However, my mother-in-law did not know she had taken the wrong phone. She had been impersonating my sister-in-law and sending improper messages to random males with her phone number and social media accounts. My sister-in-law discovered out when she went to her parents' house and requested her father to call her phone, believing she had left it there. When they heard it ringing in my mother-in-law's pocketbook, the truth was revealed. My mother-in-law admitted what she had done, and my sister-in-law lost her cool. According to my father-in-law, who subsequently informed my brother-in-law of what had occurred, my sister-in-law began yelling at my mother-in-law. She called her vulgar names and threatened to sue her for identity theft and slander. My mother-in-law is now losing her mind and upset at me because, somehow, I caused all of this. Despite the fact that she took the darn phone in the first place. She has sent numerous voice messages to my husband, referring to me as the Satan in their lives and alleging that it was because of me that she felt obliged to try such behavior. It's ludicrous, and my spouse is really furious with her. I absolutely doubt this is my fault, but what are your thoughts? You always have hilarious responses, and I appreciate everyone who contacted out. I'll have some tea in a few weeks, so get ready. My sister-in-law isn't backing down and plans to sue my mother-in-law. We attempted to persuade her not to attend, but she's adamant and over the wicked witch's antics. My mother-in-law tried to blame me for the entire affair, but my husband promptly shut her down. He has stopped communicating with her and has blocked her in everything. I have also blocked her. She even attempted to call me, but it didn't work. My sister-in-law, brother-in-law, and their partners have also stopped communicating with her. According to what my husband has heard from his father, my mother-in-law is in complete meltdown. She is absolutely perplexed as to how her own children could turn against her in this manner, and she continues to spew rubbish about betrayal and other follies. My sister-in-law is preparing to sue her for theft, slander, and identity theft. She has already engaged a lawyer, and they are in the process of scheduling a court hearing to handle the problem. It's been a stressful few weeks, and I'm proud of my sister-in-law for having the bravery to take her mother to court. My mother-in-law had anticipated this for a long time, so it is quite rewarding. My spouse also intimated that my father-in-law is getting bored of his wife's behavior. He apparently threatened to kick her out of the house again. I feel awful for him because he's such a kind guy, but I'm hopeful for his sake that things will calm down soon. That's all the knowledge I have for now. I'll keep you updated if anything else changes or if new developments occur. A month or two later, I decided it would be a good idea to update everyone who is interested in what is going on. My sister-in-law took my mother-in-law to court. They eventually reached an agreement, and my mother-in-law was required to pay a substantial sum to my sister-in-law for the harm she caused. My sister-in-law also obtained a restraining order against her mother, as she does not want to see her ever again. It's a sad scenario, but I can understand. Anyone would be tired of my mother-in-law's toxic behavior after so many years. My father-in-law has also chosen to file for divorce since he can no longer accept her behavior. When he served her with divorce papers, she lost it entirely. She ripped them up, and when he attempted to leave, she closed the door and forced him to stay. He had to phone the police, who arrived and removed her from the premises. The divorce was finalized almost a month ago. After my father-in-law kicked her out, she decided to see us. When I opened the door, she pushed her way inside, shouting at me. I swear my ears almost bled. I tried trying to get her to leave, but she refused and screamed at me. She shoved me, knocking me to the ground and hitting my head on our table. Thankfully, it was nothing serious, but I was concerned she would try anything worse. My husband arrived home just in time to force her out and call the cops on her. She was charged with assault for assaulting me, and we got a restraining order against her. All of my mother-in-law's children, including my husband, have stopped communicating with her and refused to have any kind of relationship with her, especially since she forced her way into our home and wounded me. Nobody knows what she's doing now, and I pray she never shows her face again. Things have been tranquil ever since she was forced to leave. We pay more visits to my father-in-law, and our family gets together more frequently, which has been beneficial. My sister-in-law is pregnant, which is very exciting. I can't wait to be an aunt. Honestly, my sister-in-law should sue her mother-in-law. She's so insane, she makes crazy eyes seem normal. Someone should probably get her a padded room at Grippy Sock Jail. I, a 19-year-old female, recently moved into a house that I inherited from my grandfather. I'm majoring in psychology, and my institution is close to the house, so it made sense for me to move in. It's more convenient in general. The house is reasonably spacious, with a great backyard encircled by a tall fence, and most of the neighbors are kind. However, the woman who lives in the house directly to my right has caused problems. She is quite pious, as is her entire family, and they attend church every Sunday. Now, this is where the story begins. I've been working on lowering my carbon footprint, and because it was a beautiful, sunny, hot summer day, I decided to hang my clothes, including my underwear and bras, on the line in my garden. My neighbor observed and confronted me about it. She shouted something like, "Why are you hanging your dirty underwear out? You should be aware that it is disgusting and terrible. You should feel humiliated. My 6-year-old can see it. Take it down immediately." I answered by informing her that what I do in my backyard is none of her business, and that she should not have looked into my yard in the first place. Since then, whenever I see her, she throws me dirty and disgusting glances. She's also started gossiping about me to our other neighbors, which I know since I overheard her discussing it. The fence is quite tall, so she must have been attempting to see what I was doing in my backyard. Now that I think about it, perhaps I could have used a dryer instead. AITA to dry my underwear and things in the backyard? NTA for drying clothing, including underwear, outside. It has been a standard practice for generations. Many people continue to do it in warm weather. Your neighbor's 6-year-old probably doesn't care about your underwear. This is totally your neighbor's problem. While modesty is valued in some religious communities, your neighbor seems absolutely out of place here. Since the invention of laundry, people have hung their garments to dry. She cannot dictate what you do on your property. If you want to keep the peace and avoid dealing with her, hang a sheet or towels to obscure her view of your underpants. My sister is a mother of 4. Currently, she has Sloan, 14, female, Sheen, 13, male, Riley, 7, male, and Bria, 4, female. Sloan and Sheen share the same father, my sister's late husband Robbie. Robbie died 6 years ago, and my sister and her new husband Shane met 5 years ago. Shane already had Riley when he and my sister met, but Riley lacked a mother figure in his life, so my sister filled that role, and Riley now refers to her as mom. When my sister and Shane initially married, Sloan and Sheen told me that Riley was their mother's son, and that she and Shane referred to him as their brother. Sloan and Sheen, however, did not consider Riley to be their brother. They also admitted that Shane was occasionally referred to as their father, but they did not feel the same way about him. They urged me not to inform their mother because she would be upset and attempt to change their minds. I assured them they could speak with me if they needed to, and I hoped things would improve. They've told me over the years that they didn't sense a sibling link with Riley, and then with Bria when she was born. They also do not consider Shane to be their parent. Despite the fact that kids name him their stepfather, they see him differently than Robbie and my sister do. Sloane revealed the truth a few weeks ago when she created a scrapbook as instructed by her therapist. Sloane and Sheen have been visiting therapists on and off since their father's death. My sister read through the scrapbook and noted that Sloane had not included Riley, Bria, or Shane, but only Robbie, Sheen, and their extended family. She'd also shared details about her best pal. My sister asked Sloane and Sheen about it, and they told her how they felt. Later, she spoke with me. She claimed I didn't look astonished and asked why. I informed her that it had not surprised me. She replied, "You knew?" and questioned why I couldn't tell her. She claimed I was supposed to be her brother and had allowed her to continue believing everything was fine while her children built walls around their hearts. She also admitted that she should have done more to prioritize time spent with the older and younger children. I told her the kids didn't want her to know, and I didn't want them to feel unable to communicate with me. She claimed it wasn't an excuse and that I had failed as an uncle to all four of them by allowing this distance to build. AITA? NTA. The distance did not increase, it was always there. Your sister created the divide by attempting to fit the kids into her ideal of a perfect new family. She made them feel compelled to feel the way she wanted them to. You did the right thing by providing a safe environment for the children to confide in, and you should continue to do so. They'll need it. My wife and I married on the Saturday before Halloween and have recently returned from our honeymoon. However, we are still unable to agree on a problem that arose during the ceremony. We had always wanted a Halloween wedding but didn't want to marry on a Monday night for several reasons. If Halloween had fallen on a Saturday, we would have celebrated it. During the wedding, there was a discussion regarding holding the wedding on a real holiday. My mother stated that she would not have attended if it had been on Halloween. Everyone was taken aback and asked her for clarification. She stated, "People who get married on holidays are selfish, and I would never take trick-or-treating away from my sisters when you could have chosen any other day." She also stated that children only have roughly 12 to 14 Halloweens to trick-or-treat, and she would never take it away from them for anyone. My wife and her family were mortified. Honestly, I was not surprised. I knew she felt that way, and she had previously skipped her sister-in-law's wedding since it was on Halloween. My wife told my mother that she was being impolite and asked, "Who speaks that in front of the bride?" She accused my mother of favoritism and said that if our wedding was so unimportant, she simply leave. My mother said, "It isn't Halloween, so it's a non-issue." My wife, who was still unhappy, requested me in private to make my mother go, but I declined. My mother didn't seem to be demeaning her, she was only expressing her viewpoint. I wasn't going to kick my mother out of my wedding for a hypothetical situation. We didn't quarrel throughout our honeymoon, but my wife believes I should have made my mother go. NTA. Your mother was simply sharing her views. She even maintained it wasn't an issue because the wedding wasn't on Halloween. She wasn't playing favorites either. She had already missed her sister-in-law's wedding since it fell on Halloween. I understand her point of view. I wouldn't call individuals who have holiday weddings selfish, but I understand why she wants to preserve Halloween memories for her children. She wasn't trying to persuade you to change your mind about your date, she was simply expressing that she wouldn't have attended if it were Halloween. Your wife overreacted by asking you to kick your mother out of the wedding. That is severe. Your mother wasn't being disrespectful, she was simply being honest.